Chapter 351. The deep black light dissipated, and the spatial passage closed with a boom. Suwu stepped into a new space. He scanned the surrounding environment. This was the third level of the universe cube. It differed entirely from the square spaces of the first and second levels. No oppressive square cells blocked his vision, and no gray fog obscured his sight. Suwu stood within an ancient palace that felt suffocatingly vast. The dome hung tens of thousands of yards above, like a night sky dotted with countless shifting star phantoms. The floor consisted of dark blue jade that shone like a mirror, reflecting Suwu's figure. White jade pillars, each wide enough for hundreds of people to hold hands around, lined both sides of the hall and stretched into the distance. The atmosphere carried an inviolable majesty. Yet, this magnificent hall stood empty. Only Suwu remained. Suwu brushed the dust from his hands and laughed. The local destiny experts and supremes were likely still in the mirror maze of the second level, fighting their own replicas to the death. Because he lacked local residency, the cubes had forced him to pass, making him the only challenger on this third level. Just as Suwu prepared to walk forward to see what mysteries lay hidden in the depths of the hall, an anomaly occurred. High above in the center of the dome, the flowing starlight froze. A single drop of ink-black light, pure and without impurity, fell vertically from the dome. The light dropped slowly, ignoring the distance of space. In the blink of an eye, it landed silently on the jade floor 10 steps in front of Suwu. The light converged and pooled like mercury. It rose and stretched, eventually taking the form of a slender figure before Suwu's eyes. This figure lacked facial features and consisted of flowing dark light. Yet, the way it stood and tilted its head revealed a distinct sense of humanity. "You are a strange person." The ink-black figure spoke. The tone carried a familiarity and depth, as if chatting face to face. It even held a trace of frustration. Suwu stood his ground. He did not adopt a defensive posture. He watched the figure silently, and did not rush to reply. He knew clearly that this figure was undoubtedly the will of the universe cube. "I have guarded this place for countless epochs, sending away batch after batch of so-called geniuses." The ink-black figure continued, unbothered by Suwu's silence. "To be honest, this is the first time I have seen a variable as unreasonable as you. In the first level, you forcibly broke free from my subconscious assimilation and crushed my guards with your bare hands. I could accept that, as it proved your will was firm." The figure paused, and its voice carried a deep sense of helplessness. "However, the second level was completely ineffective against you." The figure stepped forward, and its faceless countenance stared directly at Suwu. "Therefore, I calculated the situation just now, and reached the only reasonable explanation. You are not a living being from this universe, are you?" Suwu's eyes remained steady upon hearing his background exposed. Denial was unnecessary. This was the other party's territory. Since the second level could not even generate a mirror reflection, the fact that he was an outsider remained obvious. Suwu nodded, lifted his chin, and admitted it frankly and readily. "Correct. I am not a creature of this universe." The understated confirmation left the cubes silent. The atmosphere in the palace froze for a moment. "That is truly strange." The ink-black figure raised a hand to its chin in a thoughtful gesture. It paced back and forth, appearing to encounter a difficult problem. The universe sea is vast and boundless. Chaotic storms that would tear apart even the heavenly law isolate one universe from another. To cross this barrier and forcibly smuggle yourself into another original universe, even supremes would be ground into nothingness if they tried to force their way through. It stopped pacing and looked at Suwu again, its tone full of confusion. "Yet, you clearly possess only the strength of the Destiny Realm. A mere Destiny Realm martial artist. How did you manage to cross the universe sea?" The cube's will could not understand it. Could an supreme being beyond the dimensions of the universe have torn open the boundary to send him here? What supreme would be bored enough to send a small character in the Destiny Realm to snatch things? Facing the curious questions of the cube's will, Suwu merely curled his lips coldly. "How I arrived is my private matter. You need not concern yourself with it." Suwu spoke plainly, offering no explanation. The figure stopped pursuing the topic since Suwu refused to talk about it. Instead, it began to pace around Suwu in a slow, deliberate manner. It looked him over from the left and the right. Occasionally, it leaned in closer, as if examining a rare treasure it had never seen before. Suwu felt goosebumps from the scrutiny. He frowned and stared at the dark shadow suspiciously. "Do not be nervous." The figure seemed to sense Suwu's hostility. It chuckled and stepped back 2 paces. For the universe cube, its purpose was to screen the strongest successor, or rather, to find the master capable of resonating with it. As for where this challenger came from, or if he was a local native or a smuggled outsider, it did not care. Anyone who walked through this door and passed the test was a challenger. All beings were equal before the rules. Now, the cubes cared about another matter more than the mystery of how Suwu crossed the universe sea. "I care about the power within your body." The figure stopped directly in front of Suwu. 2 sharp glints seemed to ignite on its faceless head, piercing through everything. It stared intently at Suwu's chest, the foundation where the destiny imprint resided. "In the first level, you leaked only a trace of your aura, and it paralyzed my guards." The voice of the cubes became serious, even carrying a hint of unmasked fanaticism. "That power is peculiar. It radiates the unique pressure and rhythm belonging to destiny, proving it is a destiny power you have completely mastered. Yet, it does not belong to any known destiny. An unknown destiny that belongs to no sequence, yet allows a cultivator at only the second stage of the destiny realm to cross the chasm of cultivation and exert such unreasonable suppression? The figure spoke faster, as if talking to itself or performing a final deduction. Also, the feeling that power gives me is very strange. The figure raised its hands and gestured in the air, trying to describe the profound sensation. It is not pure, or rather, after becoming pure to the extreme, it appears somewhat chaotic. The palace echoed with the figure's voice, trembling with excitement. No type of destiny was chaotic. Fire was fire, and lightning was lightning. The nature of destiny was an extreme, single attribute. Unless that destiny did not consist of a single law. Chapter 352. The body of the cube will froze abruptly. All these characteristics, the brutal suppression, the chaotic yet supreme aura, they pointed perfectly to the suspicion in its mind. Could he be controlling the chaos destiny? Chaos is the ancestor of all laws, the most primitive source stripped from time, space, yin, yang, and the 5 elements. The lower universe lacks resources. It can barely carry the 3 supreme destinies of time, space, and reincarnation. The middle universe has a slightly thicker foundation. It can evolve 3,000 great paths and countless ordinary destinies. But the chaos destiny, this level is absurdly high. It is a legend found only in the top-tier primitive universe at the very peak of the universe C pyramid, where laws are perfected to the extreme. That is the only place with a glimmer of possibility for such a thing to exist. And that is merely existence itself. Rumor says that even those supreme beings, who hold the heavens of top-tier universes, struggle to conceive this power. They could spend several epochs inferring and nurturing it, yet they would fail to let this destiny power truly be born within a living being. Chaos is too arrogant. Once mastered, it equates to owning the authority to reshape cosmic rules. How could the heavenly law allow such a variable to appear? Yet now, a mere second stage of the Destiny Realm martial artist hides this power that terrifies the heavens. Could this person be a peerless freak that escaped from some top-tier primitive universe? The will of the cube felt a stormy surge in its heart. If this were true, everything made sense. Why could he cross the universe sea? Why was his power so great? However, it hesitated. It was just a treasure spirit born in a middle universe. It had never seen the real chaos destiny with its own eyes. All its deductions rested on the appearance of terrifying suppression and primitive aura. It could not judge if the power within Sawu was truly the legendary chaos destiny. The ink-black figure could not resist. It leaned forward. Its tone carried a nearly ingratiating probe. Hey, kid, tell me honestly, have you mastered the chaos destiny? Sawu looked at the figure seeking an answer. His gaze tightened, hiding the emotion in his eyes. Why? Does this power have something special? I of course do not know it. The will of the cube waved its hands repeatedly. I have only heard of it. That thing exists only in legends of top-tier universes. Where would I have seen it? So it only heard of it. Sawu pondered in his heart. He felt interest in the top-tier primitive universe. He wanted to figure out the level of that high-dimensional existence that forced him out of the lower universe. About the top-tier primitive universe, what else do you know? Sawu wanted to extract more information. A faint fluctuation of spatial laws rippled through the depths of the palace. The will of the cube turned toward the entrance. The desire to chat with Sawu vanished instantly. Enough. Casual talk ends here. The ink-black figure changed its tone, returning to a cold, business-like manner. It interrupted Sawu without ceremony. Other challengers passed the second level. They are arriving soon. Kid, take your secrets and keep moving. I hope you survive to the end. Let me see how much capability you truly possess. Before the words faded, the long ink-black figure popped like a broken bubble. It transformed into streams of black light and merged into the dark blue jade floor, vanishing without a trace. Sawu watched the empty floor and furrowed his brows. Tisk, running so fast. I almost squeezed out some real information. Ripples distorted the air 50 yards behind Sawu. A thick arm covered in silver-green star scales ripped through the spatial barrier. A bulky figure walked out of the crack, panting heavily. The silver-green armor looked tattered. It was the Star Scale Supreme, the one Sawu had cut with his blade earlier. Damned mirror image. It forced me to burn 10% of my essence blood to escape. The Star Scale Supreme escaped from the torture of the mirror space. He cursed, looking for a place to regulate his breath and heal. But when he lifted his head, his gaze crossed the empty hall and landed on the human youth standing nearby. The youth turned around, looking at him with a cold sneer. The amber pupils of the Star Scale Supreme shrank into dangerous needle points. Enemies meeting face to face brought out intense hatred. It is you. He saw the face of Sawu and turned to create distance. Old beast. You still have the guts to bark. Murderous intent flooded the eyes of Sawu. Strike while he is down. The guy had suffered major damage. This was the perfect time to kill him. If he recovered, he would become a major threat inside the cube. The chi inside Sawu exploded. The phantom of the miniature Chaos Dharma image appeared behind him. He stepped hard, shattering the dark blue jade floor. He turned into lightning and charged at the Star Scale Supreme. The Supreme stepped back, trying to use spatial jumping to avoid the edge. Just then, a deafening sound of gold and stone clashing exploded in the hall. A massive grid cage made of translucent golden light descended into the void between Sawu and the Star Scale Supreme. These squares formed a barrier. The voice of the cube will echoed in their minds once again. Private grudges can be settled after leaving the cube or during future official rounds. The third layer hall is a rest area for challengers. Combat is absolutely prohibited here. Do not fight privately. Violators will be erased immediately and stripped of their right to pass. Chapter 353. The cubes will lower the glowing golden grid barrier. Sawu narrowed his eyes. You are lucky. He did not bother with unnecessary threats. Turning around, he found a patch of clean jade floor in the center of the hall and sat down, crossing his legs with casual indifference. On the other side of the grid, Star Scale Supreme clenched his teeth. Relief flickered in the depths of his vertical amber pupils. That was close. Had the cubes will acted even half a second later, he would be dead. I will settle this score, little beast. He vowed silently. His hands moved swiftly. He pulled out a handful of potent pills, shoved them into his mouth, and sat down to race against time, refining the energy to mend his shattered form. Time drifted slowly through the vast, ancient palace. Silence broke as ripples of space tore open one after another. Figures tumbled from the void, crashing onto the dark blue jade floor. These destiny experts had survived the mirror maze of the second level, but they appeared wretched. Some suffered severed limbs, while others bore scorched flesh from their own techniques. They gasped for air like broken bellows, coughing blood. Lei Ling of the Thunder Kirin clan stumbled out. His once majestic dark gold scales were pitted and broken. One of his curved horns, usually coiled with lightning, remained snapped, and weak purple arcs flickered from it. Regardless of their state, their survival proved they had defeated their own reflections. As the old monsters regained their breath and took in the scene, they froze. A golden barrier split the center of the hall. On the left, the unfathomable human in black robes, the same man who had killed the phantom powerhouse with a single strike, sat with his eyes closed. On the right, the absolute hegemon of the Star Sector, Star Scale Supreme, frantically healed his wounds. The scene felt incredibly surreal. They had all rushed into the cube when it first opened and missed the battle. Even a fool could see these two had clashed. Given the pathetic state of Star Scale Supreme, the absolute master had clearly suffered a crushing defeat. Lei Ling hissed, drawing in a sharp breath. Terror filled his massive beast eyes. He instinctively stepped back. What kind of heaven-defying monster was this kid? He actually went head-to-head with a Supreme. Suddenly, the Destiny experts who had just survived turned very quiet. By silent agreement, they hugged the edges of the hall, staying far away from the center. They feared that even breathing too loudly might displease that killing god and earn them a lethal strike. Half an hour passed. The last Destiny expert tumbled into the hall, and the ripples of space finally settled. Aside from Sowu and Star Scale Supreme, only 8 people remained in the massive palace. More than 50 Destiny experts and 1 Supreme had entered, and after 2 rounds of brutal screening, fewer than 10 survived. The mortality rate proved terrifying. As the survivors grappled with their fear, the cubes will echoed in their minds. Congratulations. Standing here proves you have the courage to face the abyss and the foundation to conquer yourselves. You have the qualifications to touch the mysteries of the Star Sea. The second level has concluded. Now it is time for your rewards. The voice faded. Above, the dome soaring tens of thousands of feet high erupted in dazzling light. Soft orbs of light descended like falling stars, hovering precisely in front of every challenger. Sowu focused on his orb. As the glow faded, a single drop of transparent liquid lay encased within. It was the size of a soybean, crystal clear, looking like a drop of ordinary morning dew. It radiated no earth-shaking energy, displayed no blinding phenomena, and released no scent. Is this it? Sowu raised an eyebrow. He attempted to probe it with his supreme-level consciousness. The energy sank in like a stone in the ocean. It produced no ripples and offered no feedback. This thing looked like plain water. What could it possibly do? Before Sowu could voice his complaint, heavy gasps erupted around the hall. He turned to look. Those ancient monsters, who had lived for countless years and supposedly remained calm in the face of collapsing mountains, now had bloodshot eyes. They stared fixedly at the transparent drop. Their throats bobbed uncontrollably. Some shook violently with excitement. Sowu looked at the unremarkable drop in his hand, and then at the others, who seemed to have found an immortal elixir. Suspicion filled his mind. It was clearly a valuable item. But what was it? While Sowu pondered, a massive figure approached, treading deliberately softly. It was Lei Ling. This Thunder Kirin did not rush to claim his reward like the others. He circled the edge of the hall, and stopped a short distance from Sowu. Brother Su. Lei Ling lowered his massive head, watching Sowu stare blankly at the droplet, and rumbled in a deep voice. Your expression suggests you do not recognize this. Sowu glanced up. This giant knew how to read the room. He clearly intended to build a connection. Sowu nodded openly, his tone calm. He felt no shame in his ignorance. I have not seen it before. What exactly is this? Everyone seems quite excited. Lei Ling's mouth twitched at Sowu's blunt description. He thought to himself, a freak who dares to slash a supreme would naturally not feel excited, but for us, this is life itself. On the surface, Lei Ling's attitude became even more respectful. He knew this served as a perfect opportunity to get closer. Brother Su, you might not know. Lei Ling sighed, looking at the transparent drop in front of Sowu with complex eyes. If this existed in the outside world, even a single drop would be enough to trigger a genocidal bloodbath between 2 top-tier star domains. Even those at the Destiny level would crack skulls to obtain it. It is called Primordial Universe Fluid. Chapter 354. It offers a heaven-defying boost with no side effects. It fundamentally cleanses the body and soul. Even for those of us who have already refined our bodies to the top level of the Destiny realm, this is a priceless treasure. Lei Ling pointed it out as he finished his explanation. Sowu looked carefully. The surface of the transparent liquid emitted a faint, hazy golden light. It hung quietly in midair, seemingly weightless. As it trembled ever so slightly, the dead energy of the heaven and earth within the hall seemed disturbed. Strands of spiritual energy circled the droplet like pilgrims, forming tiny visible vortices. This thing does not come from an ordinary territory. Lei Ling swallowed hard, continuing his role as a free guide. It is no exaggeration to say that there are not many places in the vast universe where such treasures can be found. Apart from those hidden, top-tier forbidden zones, this primal cube, which opens every 10,000 years, is one of them. More than half of those old fellows outside who risk their lives to squeeze in are here for this primordial universe fluid. So Wu finally understood the value of the item after Lei Ling's detailed explanation. Cleanse the soul. Strengthen the body. His own body and soul had been strengthened by the system countless times. So Wu did not know how much use this drop of primordial universe fluid would be for him. However, what if he gave it to that brat at home? So Wu imagined Suyu's face. Suyu was already a monster of talent. If he could use this primordial universe fluid, which even Destiny-level experts would envy, to solidify his foundation while at the demigod stage. So Wu smirked. It really is a good thing. So Wu smiled with satisfaction. He flipped his wrist with fluid motion. He took out an extreme cold jade bottle designed for storing top-tier medicinal herbs from his spatial ring. Click. He pulled out the stopper. So Wu forced a trace of energy from his fingertips, carefully wrapping it around the primordial universe fluid floating in the air. He guided it precisely into the jade bottle. He plugged the bottle, passed a spatial seal to prevent the loss of potency, and tucked the bottle back into his spatial ring. Such a heaven-defying item could not be eaten in secret. It had to be taken back intact for Suyu. The more stable Suyu's foundation was and the faster he broke through, the more terrifying the power the system would return to Suwu. Suwu calculated this father-son exchange better than anyone. The survivors in the hall remained immersed in the joy of obtaining the treasure. A hum echoed. The voice of the primal cubes will resonated in everyone's minds once again. Those who have passed the first 2 levels have proven your qualifications and received your rewards. Naturally, the death rate will increase the further you go. You now have an opportunity. You have the chance to withdraw directly from the primal cube and return to the current world safely with your primordial universe fluid. You must consider carefully whether to stop while you are ahead or to continue seeking life through death. The voice fell silent. All the challengers in the hall looked at each other, caught in a long struggle. Stay or leave. Which of the mighty ones who had reached the destiny realm was not arrogant and ambitious? Who did not want to compete for that legendary primal treasure capable of suppressing a supreme? However, reason beat at them wildly. Almost 40 destiny realm experts had died in the first and second levels. Fewer than 10 people had survived until now. Continuing downward would likely lead to death. By then, the primordial universe fluid in their hands, barely warmed, would be useless. After a brief silence, Lei Ling's purple beast eyes flickered. He turned his gaze to a dark corner on the left side of the hall. A blurry shadow shifted there. It was the leader of the Shadow Kill tribe, and Tian Cheng. The two looked at each other from across the distance. Both clearly saw the determination in the other's eyes. They were intelligent men who had lived for countless years, old foxes who understood contentment and endurance. Lei Ling nodded. He strode forward with his thick legs and turned back to Suwu. Brother Su, Lei Ling's voice sounded honest. He shed the burden of being a powerhouse, revealing a sense of relief. I came here for this primordial universe fluid. Now that the treasure is safely in my pocket, I do not want to risk my life further ahead. He paused. He glanced unintentionally at the Star Scale Supreme, who was busy suppressing injuries across the light screen. He lowered his voice. Besides, the situation ahead will likely become increasingly chaotic. Gods fight there. My body cannot handle it, so I will withdraw first. Lei Ling understood the situation clearly. Stopping while ahead was the best policy. Suwu watched the candid thunder Kirin before him. A flash of appreciation passed through his eyes. Good. Suwu nodded slightly. Protecting oneself and knowing how to control greed, that is the type of person who can survive to the end in this cruel star sea. Receiving Suwu's response, Lei Ling did not hesitate. Take care, brother Su. We shall meet again if fate permits. He raised his head and roared at the dome. I choose to withdraw. As the words fell, a brilliant white beam descended from the dome like a pillar of light. It enveloped Lei Ling's massive body completely. With a flash of light, Lei Ling's presence vanished from the third layer hall. He was teleported out of the cube. The white light was like the first domino falling. In the corner, and Tian Cheng turned into a black mist, bathing in the white light, as he departed quietly. I also withdraw. As long as the green hills remain, there is no need to worry about firewood. Voices rang out one after another throughout the hall. The mermaid of the water spirit tribe looked deeply at Suwu. A complex emotion flashed in her eyes before she also decided decisively to leave. For them, obtaining the primordial universe fluid was already an act of heaven's blessing. They could not touch the opportunities that followed. The white light dissipated, and the magnificent palace returned to silence. Suwu remained sitting cross-legged in place. He scanned the vast ancient palace. Only 5 figures remained in the third layer hall at this moment. In the center of the hall, the barrier still flickered with impenetrable flowing light, separating the place in two. On one side of the barrier stood the Star Scale Supreme. In the other 3 directions of the hall, aside from Suwu and the Star Scale Supreme, 3 Destiny Realm experts stood quietly. These 3 challengers did not choose to withdraw. They resisted the satisfaction brought by the primordial universe fluid and chose to stay, attempting to obtain the final fortune. Chapter 355. After the challengers exited the Great Hall, the will of the cube resonated once again. Good. The 5 of you who remain have the greed and courage worthy of this opportunity. Let us begin the third level. The rules are simple. You will be transported to a simulated star field. There your only goal is to seize a small orb that carries the aura of the origin. If you obtain that orb and hold it in your hand, you can enter the final level. You will gain the qualification to attempt to control the primal treasure, the universe cube. Control the primal treasure. These 6 words crashed like thunder into the soul of every person present. The 3 mysterious destiny experts glared at the void, with the greed of starving wolves. Even the star scale supreme breathed heavily. The amber slits of his eyes burned with a madness born of obsession. This was the universe cube. Whoever mastered it could walk sideways across this middle primitive universe. The voice faded. A hum resonated through the air. Before anyone could think, the dark blue jade floor of the ancient palace lit up with complex formation patterns. Dizziness clouded the mind. Sawu, the star scale supreme, and the 3 destiny experts vanished into a blinding white light. The feeling of weightlessness lasted only a moment. When Sawu opened his eyes, the scenery had changed completely. The dome of the palace and the jade floor were gone. A vast, deep, and icy universe stretched out before him. Nebulas swirled slowly in the distance, and asteroid belts of various sizes drifted nearby. Starlight dimmed against the ink-black deep space. This was a star field simulated by the cube. The energy of heaven and earth and the orbital trajectories of the stars matched the real universe outside. 5 figures appeared simultaneously in the center of the star field, separated by tens of thousands of miles. At the intersection of their gazes, the void rippled like water. A small, gray, fist-sized orb emerged from thin air. It drifted quietly in the starry sky. The starlight warped and was swallowed as it approached the primitive power radiating from the object. Mine. The 3 mysterious destiny experts reacted with incredible speed. They ignored their competitors. Their eyes turned bloodshot at the sight of the orb. 3 distinct types of destiny power erupted. They lunged toward the orb from 3 different directions. Getting there first meant ascending to the sky in a single step. Yet, 2 anomalies existed in this race. One was Sawu. The other was the Star Scale Supreme. As the only Supreme Realm powerhouse in this star field, the Star Scale Supreme should have been the most confident and the fastest. In fact, he had prepared his own countermeasures in secret. He had already channeled the space destiny. He was certain he could grab the orb before anyone else the moment it appeared. But within 1/100th of a second of arriving, a chill crawled up his spine. His flesh shuddered, reacting to a lethal threat. He did not look at the orb. He whipped his head around to stare at the human youth in the distance. Sawu's dark and cold eyes had not lingered on the orb for even a second. Those eyes stared at him like a grim reaper locking on to prey. He wants to kill me first. The scalp of the Star Scale Supreme prickled. He understood this freak's style. After being tricked by him on the outside, this kid was clearly a man who held a grudge. The Star Scale Supreme abandoned the prize within reach without hesitation. He tore open the spatial barrier behind him and retreated wildly. The Star Scale Supreme had guessed correctly. Success was important, but killing an enemy was more pressing. Deep inside this dangerous cube, Sawu felt uneasy leaving a Supreme, who might stab him in the back at any moment. His first reaction upon arriving was to boil with killing intent. He did not even glance at the orb. "Where do you think you are going?" Sawu barked a cold command. The chaos destiny at the center of his heart unleashed its full power. The universe moaned under the weight. Chaos energy expanded outward from Sawu. Within a single breath, the chaos Dharma image rose into the star sea. It stood 90 million yards tall, blocking the sky and radiating an aura that crushed all laws. The tyrannical pressure turned the surrounding asteroids into powder. Die. Sawu stood at the center of the image's brow and slapped his palm forward. The giant hand of the Chaos Dharma image brought a crushing spatial pressure down upon the spot where the Star Scale Supreme had stood a moment before. The Star Scale Supreme lived up to his reputation as a veteran supreme. He possessed not only the resolve to flee, but also the peak mastery of spatial power. Before the giant hand landed, he had already vanished from the spot. The giant hand slammed into the void. It turned that section of the star field into an absolute vacuum. It even crushed the spatial turbulence into nothingness. Yet, the palm remained empty. Before the suppression of the chaos destiny descended, the Star Scale Supreme had already used a spatial jump to escape the effective range. "You are fast." Sawu sneered at the faint spatial ripples in the distant void. The attack had missed, but he did not rush. In this closed star field, even a fast runner was just a turtle in a jar. He retracted the 90 million yard Chaos Dharma image slightly. He turned his head to check the situation in the center of the starry sky. While he had delivered that palm strike, the 3 destiny experts had rushed to the front of the orb. They fought for the lead, throwing black hands at each other near the orb, and causing the starry sky to tremble. "Get out of my way. This fortune is mine." One of the experts went mad. He ignored the killing blows from the 2 beside him, and reached for the orb. The moment his fingertip touched the surface of the orb, a bizarre scene unfolded. The orb, which had been stationary, flickered. It vanished into thin air right before their eyes. What? Where is the orb? Where did it go? The 3 experts grabbed nothing but empty air. They stared at the void with confusion. They scanned the area with their consciousness, but the orb had completely disappeared. Sawu raised an eyebrow. A flash of realization crossed his eyes. The 3rd level of the cube would not be as simple as a race. The orb carrying the origin was a cunning prey. It dodged. It teleported. Finding it again and catching it in this vast star sea would not be easy. Sawu withdrew his gaze. "Since I still have time, I must clear away the obstacles." His thoughts moved. The space destiny and the chaos destiny inside his body intertwined. The space destiny intensified. He locked onto the trace of the spatial ripples that had not yet dissipated in the starry sky, tracking the path where the star scale supreme had fled. Chapter 356. The Chaos Dharma image resembled an apocalyptic demon god. Its passage created visible ripples, spreading outward in every direction. Meteor belts disintegrated into dust upon contact. Ahead, Star Scale Supreme pushed his space destiny to the absolute limit. He leaped through space repeatedly. Each jump left a trail of blurred spatial afterimages. His skin crawled. No matter how he changed his escape path, or how strange his trajectories, that nemesis behind him clung to him like a maggot on a bone. "You lunatic!" Star Scale Supreme roared, his voice thick with frustration. He fled wildly. "We have no grudge. Everyone gathered here to compete for the universe cube. Why go this far? Why must you push me to the edge?" He did not understand. He had already retreated 3 steps. He had not even tried to snatch the orb that would grant him passage. Why was this fellow biting at his heels like a rabid dog? Was it not better to save energy to fight for the ultimate treasure? Wu remained unmoved by this shrill, desperate questioning. He sneered in his mind. No grudge. Outside, this old fellow had relied on his high cultivation to strike without provocation. Had Wu not possessed hard-hitting cards, he would have died on the spot. Life and death battles never allowed for mercy. Within this perilous cube, leaving behind a supreme who harbored such deep hatred was like planting a time bomb by his side. Wu said nothing. The killing intent in his eyes burned hotter. He seized the moment when Star Scale Supreme spoke, distraction coloring his focus. He kicked the air, blending spatial force with chaos power. His figure spanned half the star field in an instant, closing the distance rapidly. The distance was sufficient. Wu stood in midair. He gripped his right hand, pulling back slowly. Behind him, the towering Chaos Dharma image mirrored his actions. Countless gray chaotic currents surged from the surrounding star field. Within moments, a primitive, heavy gray longbow appeared between the giant hands of the Dharma image. It radiated the pressure of heaven and earth. The bow curved like a full moon. An arrow, compressed and refined from pure chaos power, rested on the bowstring. The starlight dimmed. Every scrap of energy in the universe trembled under the sharp edge of the arrow, as if facing the judgment of the ancestor of all laws. Go. Wu parted his thin lips, spitting out the single word. The bowstring snapped. The dull groan of the bow transformed into a storm sweeping across the sea of stars. It threatened to tear the sky of this simulated star field apart. The arrow of chaos broke through the void. Ahead, Star Scale Supreme felt the hairs on his neck stand on end. A sense of death, thick enough to stifle him, enveloped his spirit. Bad. His amber vertical pupils contracted. Instinctively, he tried to trigger a spatial jump again. He lacked the time to even turn around. His body tilted hard to the left. Yet, his space destiny failed him in the face of this arrow. His power was suppressed by the chaos destiny. The arrow ignored the distance of space. One moment it left the bowstring, the next it locked onto his body. A tearing sound of flesh filled the void. The arrow bypassed his heart, thanks to his desperate tilt, yet it tore past his right shoulder blade with unstoppable momentum. It exploded in the starry sky. The terrifying chaotic waves erupted like a dying star. The cataclysmic energy blasted away half of Star Scale Supreme's shoulder armor. Large, hard, silver blue scales mixed with bone fragments and flesh scattered. The blood of the Supreme sprinkled across the cold void, painting a cruel and beautiful scene. The shrill scream escaped Star Scale Supreme. Agony staggered his figure in the void. He gasped. Despite the tearing pain in his shoulder, his eyes burned with lingering horror and dread. This fellow, possessing only the aura of the Destiny realm, proved far more ruthless and powerful than expected. Had his reaction time been 1 millisecond slower, half his body would have been evaporated into nothingness. The pain did not crush the veteran Supreme. Instead, it ignited the ferocity in his bones. He panted, a sinister cold light flashing in his eyes. The boy's attack power reached the threshold of the Supreme realm, far exceeding his own. But what about defense? He refused to believe a Destiny realm body could withstand Supreme-level killing force. If he found the opportunity to break the defense, the boy would die. He would die miserably. Did the boy think Star Scale Supreme was a stray dog, capable only of fleeing? Suddenly, Star Scale Supreme stopped his wild flight. He turned, letting the blood drip from his shoulder. He faced the incoming Wu. His undamaged left hand flipped forward. An ancient disc, crystal white and engraved with mysterious star tracks, entered the void. The white disc expanded in the wind, releasing a vast array of energy. Start. A roar, filled with overwhelming hatred, erupted from him. The next moment, a shocking and bizarre scene unfolded. The long stretch of space they had just traversed, those dark and dead zones they had left behind, lit up with thousands of blinding silver spots. These were not stars. They were the spatial kill array nodes left by Star Scale Supreme. Starlight flickered like a lit fuse, spreading and connecting through the void. Countless silver array lines crossed. In the blink of an eye, they formed a starlight kill array that blotted out the sky, trapping Wu within. Chapter 357. A single point of starlight ignited, followed by a chorus of 10,000 shimmering beams. The spatial nodes, scattered by Star Scale Supreme along the path, had seemed chaotic. Under the activation of the white disk, they instantly connected into a death trap that blotted out the sky. Wu sensed the atmosphere undergo a violent transformation. His heart jumped. This was no ordinary entrapment. It was a top-tier killing formation. Every interwoven silver thread contained enough spatial strangulation power to cleave a star in two. Suwoo did not hesitate. He channeled the space destiny within him, attempting to tear through the void, perform a spatial jump, and force his way out of the formation coverage. A heavy, sluggish sensation pressed in from every direction. Suwoo frowned. The space he commanded like an extension of his own arm would not budge. Star-Scale Supreme had immersed himself in the laws of space for ages. The core logic of this formation was absolute spatial suppression and lockdown. Unless someone could unleash power exceeding the limit of the formation in a single instant, there would be no escaping this net. Suwoo snorted. Since there was no retreat, he would endure it to the end. He clasped his hands before his chest. The Chaos Dharma image collapsed inward rapidly. The massive shadow transformed into a dense, heavy armor that encased Suwoo from head to toe. Simultaneously, he pushed the Chaos Destiny to its absolute limit. Gray chaotic energy crawled along the armor and spread outward to meet the incoming starlight threads. The sharp silver beams dimmed the moment they touched the chaotic energy. The power of the formation weakened significantly. Star-Scale Supreme roared from outside the formation. Millions of starlight threads intertwined completely to form a massive net. It carried the kinetic energy of a cataclysm and slammed shut. The net swallowed Suwoo and his chaotic armor at its center. The entire star field trembled. The internal structure of this primal treasure shook from the impact. Within the radius of several tens of thousands of miles where the starlight net struck, stars and meteor belts were vaporized into nothingness. Not even dust remained. The space there shattered, forming a pitch-black hole that devoured all light. Laws fractured. Turbulence raged. Outside the formation, Star-Scale Supreme gasped for breath. His chest heaved violently. The left hand holding the white disc trembled uncontrollably. He had sacrificed 30% of his internal energy to lay this trap. His amber eyes remained fixed on the center of the void that had turned into a black hole. Had he died? Star-Scale Supreme swallowed hard, his heart filled with doubt. A Destiny Realm cultivator, no matter how heaven-defying their defense, should have been ground into meat if hit directly by his Star Trek Annihilation Array. Even their soul should have been crushed. Yet, his instincts screamed a warning. The sense of unease did not fade with the end of the explosion. It grew stronger. This place was dangerous. Star-Scale Supreme reached a decision. He was unsure if that monster was dead, but he refused to stay in these muddy waters for another second. He raised his hand to tear through space and flee. A large hand, covered in thick, viscous blood, emerged from the void without warning. It gripped his head firmly. Star-Scale Supreme stiffened. A gravelly voice, like a spirit from the netherworld, rasped against his ear. "Old thing, are you looking for me?" Star-Scale Supreme struggled to move his eyes, catching a glimpse of the figure behind him. Suwoo stood there like a phantom. Suwoo looked miserable. His clothes had been shredded into rags by the violent spatial formation. Hardly a patch of intact skin remained on his body. Deep grooves stained with blood traced his flesh to the bone. Blood gushed out, staining him a deep crimson. Despite being bathed in blood, Suwoo did not show a hint of decline. When the killing formation had closed, the 90-million-yard Chaos Dharma image had absorbed 90% of the fatal spatial cutting force. The remaining 10% had landed on him. Now, the supreme chaos body within Suwoo operated at full speed. Tender, pink flesh writhed and knitted together at a terrifying speed along the edges of the deep wounds. Severed meridians were forced back together, and lost blood was replenished in an instant. How is this possible? Star-Scale Supreme shook as he spoke. Despair shattered his mental defenses. To endure a supreme killing formation and not die, only to counterattack instantly. What kind of monster was this? Suwoo did not give Star-Scale Supreme another chance to speak. He tightened his 5 fingers. A dull thud echoed like a watermelon bursting. The head of Star-Scale Supreme, a hegemon of the Sea of Stars, exploded into a mist of blood. The battle was far from over. Suwoo knew the survival methods of these old monsters well from his time killing the Space Destiny user in the lower universe. Supreme Realm life force was terrifyingly resilient. A head was no longer a weak point. If a single drop of blood, a single cell, or a fragment of a soul escaped, they could regenerate in time and return. To kill them, he had to grind their bones to dust and annihilate their soul. The moment the head of Star-Scale Supreme exploded, the Time Destiny and Space Destiny descended upon the headless corpse. Time locked in place. Space sealed tight. The Fire Destiny erupted. Golden divine flames whirred like a dragon, opening a massive maw to swallow the remains of Star-Scale Supreme. The Thunder Destiny thundered. Purple gold destructive lightning turned into billions of thin, but lethal arcs, boring into every inch of flesh and bone. Under the destruction of these two violent destiny powers, the Supreme Being had every cell and every shred of soul annihilated into dust. Star-Scale Supreme was dead. The flames faded. Suwoo let out a long, ragged breath. His wounds had healed for the most part under the abnormal recovery power of the Supreme Chaos Body, but his tattered, bloody clothes remained a testament to the brutality of the fight. He raised his hand and drew the white formation disk, a storage ring radiating spatial fluctuations, and 3 destiny powers into his palm. These were the Space Destiny, the Light Destiny, and the Gold Destiny. The life savings of a Supreme Being would be a windfall of unimaginable proportions. However, this was not the time to check the loot or absorb the destiny powers. Suwoo projected his massive supreme consciousness like an invisible net covering the star sea and spread it out in all directions. One prey was solved. but something more important remained. The small orb that held the final control of the universe cube could not fall into the hands of others. His consciousness pierced through layers of nebulae. Found it. Siwoo opened his eyes. His deep gaze locked onto coordinates in the depths of the star field. In his perception, the three mysterious destiny experts chased the small orb like starving dogs. The orb moved with the intelligence of a fish, leaping across vast distances with every flicker. The three experts kept each other in check and sabotaged one another, unable to form a true encirclement. The orb remained at ease despite their pursuit. Thankfully, no one has succeeded yet. Siwoo cracked his neck, and his bones popped like popping beans. He flickered and vanished from the spot. Chapter 358. In another section of the deep starry sky, a small orb darted frantically between dense asteroid belts and brilliant nebulas. It flickered. One moment it rested above a broken celestial fragment. The next, it jumped 10 million miles to the edge of a deep space vortex without warning. It followed no pattern. Its trajectory remained erratic and impossible to predict. Behind its shifting path, three blinding streaks of light pursued it, clinging like a disease. The three Destiny Realm powerhouses, a green ore of wood, a white mist of bitter cold ice, and blue ripples of water. Three distinct forces of destiny drew long trails across space. Their eyes burned red with obsession. They chased and fought. Everyone wanted to take the lead and snatch the orb that represented control of the primal treasure. At the same time, they guarded against the other two. No one wanted to become a stepping stone for someone else to ascend the throne. This fortune belongs to me. You two old ghosts should not overestimate yourselves. The destiny expert draped in blue water waves had bloodshot eyes. He spurred his movement technique and threw a palm backward. The vast water destiny transformed into a water column capable of crushing stars. It roared toward the two powerhouses behind him. Nonsense. The primal treasure belongs to the capable. The powerhouse on the right sneered sharply. She did not dodge. She flicked her fingertip, and the ice destiny within her erupted. The water column froze into a giant ice sculpture in midair. With another flick of her finger, it shattered into a sky full of ice crystals, with a crisp cracking sound. The powerhouse on the far left, who controlled wood destiny, seized the gap while the others fought. He pressed both hands forward violently. Countless green vines, thick as coiling dragons, ignored the vacuum of space. They grew wildly from nothingness, attempting to bypass the two rivals and bind the flickering orb ahead. The other two would not let him succeed. Seeing this, they tacitly teamed up to attack the one reaching for the orb. Boom, bang, sizzle. The three destiny experts were covered in wounds after the long chase. They refused to retreat a single step. However, just as the three men fought until they bled for the orb, a sudden change occurred. A strange force descended upon the three Destiny Realm powerhouses. A humming sound filled the void. Gray energy quietly shrouded the starry sky for tens of thousands of miles. The moment this force touched their bodies, the three felt a wave of terror. The power they usually controlled with ease became obscure and sluggish. Their speed slowed instantly. Chaos destiny. Absolute power suppression. What is happening? Terror filled the faces of the three. They had never heard of a method that could suppress another person's power. Siwoo left them no time to think or react. The moment they panicked, he struck. A sharp tearing sound echoed. In the void behind them, three purple gold lightning spears appeared from nothing. They were condensed to the limit and radiated destructive intent. This was extreme lightning, enhanced countless times by chaos destiny. Each spear crackled with terrifying power capable of slaying all three instantly. Fast. Faster than thought. The three destiny experts could not even register the outline of the purple gold light. A squelch. Three sounds of blades piercing flesh overlapped in the silent space. The three purple gold lightning spears struck with precision. They pierced their backs, shattered their hearts and spines, and exited through their chests. The next second, boom, boom, boom. The purple gold lightning surged along their shattered meridians into every limb and bone. The violent lightning destiny power detonated within them. Flesh splattered. Bones turned to ash. The bodies and souls of the three destiny experts were blown into ashes. No corpse remained. Siwoo stepped out of the void. His wounds had healed completely thanks to the supreme chaos body. He stopped before the ashes. He held one hand behind his back and watched the remains dissipate in the void. Tum. He slowly raised his right hand, clawed his fingers, and pulled toward the ashes across the air. A humming sound rose. Three strands of destiny fell into Siwoo's palm. Wood destiny, ice destiny, and water destiny. Siwoo stowed the spoils and locked his gaze onto the flickering orb. It seemed to pause. It was merely a manifestation of the primal treasure's origin. It possessed no features or consciousness. Yet, it instinctively sensed the one-sided massacre that had just occurred behind it. The violent power instilled unprecedented fear in the orb. Its aura trembled violently. The orb was as slippery as an eel covered in oil. The bloody scene of killing three destiny experts had terrified it. Without hesitation, the gray light on the surface of the orb shrank. It then erupted with a speed 10 times faster than before. It accelerated, turning into an almost invisible gray afterimage. It fled wildly through the gaps of the vast nebula ahead. You think of running now? Siwoo watched the orb as it began to merge into the depths of the nebula. He curled his lips into a smile. Too late. Boom. The void beneath Siwoo's feet shattered inch by inch. Space destiny and lightning destiny combined. His speed increased dramatically. His figure transformed into a bolt of black lightning wrapped in purple gold thunder, streaking directly toward the fleeing orb. Chapter 359. Suwoo closed the distance to the orb and immediately activated Space Destiny. The space spanning several tens of thousands of miles ahead froze instantly. Silver spatial threads wove into a net of heaven and earth, sealing every escape route above, below, to the left, and to the right of the chaotic orb. Suwoo raised an eyebrow at the outcome. The orb crashed into the unbreakable spatial blockade without a hint of hesitation. A faint gray light flickered on its surface. The blockade, meant to be impenetrable, cracked under the impact like a spiderweb. The cracks spread instantly. The orb shot forward like an armor-piercing shell. It did not lose speed. It used the recoil from the collision to spin and streak toward the gap in the barrier. Suwoo smirked. Ordinary spatial locks could not hold this thing. He expected nothing less. He possessed plenty of cards to play. Just as the orb shattered the spatial barrier and darted through the side, Suwoo activated Time Destiny. He slowed the flow of time directly in the path of the orb, right where it was destined to travel. He could only slow the orb by a fraction, less than 1,000th of a microsecond, but that was enough. The orb, moving at full speed, slammed into the slowed time zone. The gray afterimage, once impossible to track, stuttered. It looked like a frame drop in a video game. The orb hovered in midair for an instant. Suwoo surged with intent. He threw his right hand forward, snatching at the void. Chaos Destiny, dormant deep in his heart, boiled over. Endless gray chaotic energy surged from his palm, expanding in the vacuum of space. In the blink of an eye, it formed a massive gray hand that blotted out the sky. The hand ignored the meteorites and nebulas in its path. With a domineering momentum that could push through the ages, it clenched shut. It locked the orb, which had been frozen by the lag in time, firmly in its palm. The orb, captured by the chaotic hand, refused to accept its fate. It erupted with a burst of gray light on its surface. Like a wild beast trapped in a desperate situation, it thrashed left and right, trying to tear its way out of the chaotic grip. Suwoo observed the scene with surprise, though it made sense. The orb struggled violently at first, but as the aura of chaos destiny from the chaotic hand seeped into its core, a miracle occurred. The wild orb stiffened as if struck by electricity. It seemed to catch a scent of a bloodline suppression within the power of chaos destiny that made resistance impossible. It ceased its struggle in less than half a second. The blinding light on its surface retreated. It quieted down in the palm of the chaotic hand, even exhibiting a docile and gentle rhythm, like a tamed kitten curling up against the palm. Suwoo twitched his mouth. It was a spineless little thing that bullied the weak and feared the strong. Suwoo flickered, crossing the several tens of thousands of miles of deep space to arrive in front of the chaotic hand. He dissipated the giant hand made of vital energy. He reached out and gripped the orb, which no longer glowed or resisted, tightly in his palm. It felt heavy, like a heart beating weakly in his grip. The moment Suwoo held the orb, the simulated starry sky ceased its rotation. The stars stopped twinkling. Floating meteorites froze in midair. The entire third level plunged into absolute stillness. Then, the voice belonging to the will of the universe cube resonated deep within the mind of Suwoo. It really is as I imagined. This time, the voice lacked its previous grandeur and majesty. It carried only a sense of relief, as if it had seen The. You have won. The voice of the cube echoed in the sea of stars. It had guessed the outcome long ago. From the moment it confirmed in the hall of the third level that the power within Suwoo was likely the legendary Chaos Destiny, the fate of the trial had been sealed. Other Destiny Realm experts, no matter how talented or ruthless, were merely futile participants in the face of someone who had grasped high-dimensional power. This primal orb had not been caught by Suwoo. It had chosen to submit after sensing the aura of chaos. Since you know I have won, make it quick. Suwoo toyed with the orb in his hand, his tone lazy, sparing no respect for the will of this supreme cosmic treasure. From the torturous mortal world of the first level to the frozen mirror space of the second level, and then to this star-sea chase, he had killed enough and seized enough. It was time to take the core prize of this mess. As you wish, future chess player. The voice of the cube faded, but the last three words carried a profound and intriguing meaning. The next moment, a mechanical sound like giant gears locking into place resonated across the star field. A beam of white light ignited beneath the feet of Suwoo. The light engulfed him, transporting him away. With the departure of Suwoo, the third level collapsed inch by inch, finally returning to dead and dark nothingness. A crisp dripping sound echoed by his ear. When the vision of Suwoo cleared, he had left the simulated star field. He stood in the core region of the universe cube, the fourth level. Suwoo looked up and surveyed his surroundings. This time, there were no block cages, no mirrors filling the sky, and no magnificent ancient palace. He stood in a bizarre space. Beneath his feet lay a black ocean as calm as a mirror. The water surface remained without a ripple, reflecting a pure white sky devoid of stars. The sky and the sea, one black and one white, formed a perfectly symmetrical plane. At the very center where the black and white met, a lonely throne constructed from countless translucent grids floated silently. Floating above the throne was a miniature phantom of the universe cube, rotating slowly and measuring only a few yards in diameter. Chapter 360. Suwoo studied the phantom of the cube with intense focus. A low hum vibrated through the air. The space beside him twisted. A long, ink-black figure emerged without a sound. It was the will of the universe cube from the third level. The majesty that had previously defined its presence vanished. It stood next to Sowu and looked up at the miniature phantom. A sense of deep helplessness and fatigue radiated from its form. I am the will born from this primal treasure, the figure said. It turned its head towards Sowu. Its voice carried a bitter self-mockery. But to be frank, I am just a caretaker responsible for guarding the door and screening candidates. As for the final decision on choosing a master, that is beyond my control. Sowu glanced at it briefly. He did not speak. He had guessed this outcome long ago. If the will had been able to fully control this primal treasure, it would have offered the cube to him the moment it confirmed the chaos destiny within his body. For a cosmic treasure, following a master who controlled the power of chaos meant the potential to break the shackles of the middle universe and glimpse a higher level of existence. This was an ultimate temptation that no artifact spirit could refuse. What must I do? Sowu asked. The will of the cube set aside its helpless posture. Its tone became solemn and grave. It pointed toward the miniature cube hovering above the throne. It is simple, the will said one word at a time. You only need to step forward and pour all your divine sense into that phantom, without reservation. You must attempt to establish a connection with its core. If you succeed, your soul imprint will replace its masterless state. You will become the true owner of this primal treasure. The will paused before continuing. But I must say this first. Even though you control the chaos destiny, and possess a physical body, and foundation that far exceed ordinary beings, I cannot guarantee you will wake up alive. Since the birth of this middle primal universe, this treasure has remained here. In the countless epochs of the past, many talented individuals have stood before this throne. There were ancient remnants with innate gifts, alien beings with heaven-defying comprehension, and even those who reached the level of supreme. Yet they all failed. The treasure was too overbearing. This was the true reason it had remained without a master for 10,000 years. If a supreme cannot control it, they were merely trash, Sowu said with a faint laugh. He did not waste another word. He stepped forward and stood directly before the brilliant throne. The will stood in place and watched Sowu's back. Everything depends on your own fortune now, the will murmured to itself. Although Sowu was an outsider of unknown origin, the will hoped from the bottom of its heart that this freak could succeed. It had drifted in solitude for too long. It craved a master who could truly subdue it. Yet, could this human with only a second-stage destiny realm cultivation really create a miracle against an ancient treasure left behind since the birth of the universe? Sowu took a deep breath before the throne. He closed his eyes and blocked out everything else. He poured his terrifying divine sense, which had been tempered multiple times to a level matching a supreme, into the miniature cube phantom. A thunderous roar echoed. The moment his divine sense touched the surface of the phantom, Sowu had no time to prepare for a defense. A change erupted. A terrifying force pulled at him. The force lacked all reason. It hooked into his soul and yanked inward with violent intensity. In the same second, his vast divine sense was instantly drained and forced into the tiny phantom. Sowu's upright body shook violently before the throne. He opened his eyes slowly. The eyes that had been pitch black lost all their luster. His gaze became unfocused. His pupils lacked depth. He stood straight and still like a puppet with its soul ripped out, appearing dull and empty. His physical body remained outside, but his consciousness had been swallowed into the phantom. He existed within a strange space. Sowu's consciousness regained clarity, and a wave of dizziness washed over him. When he steadied his mind, he realized he no longer possessed a physical body. He had become a ball of light radiating a faint gray glow, hovering in a boundless and bizarre expanse. Directly before him, the miniature universe cube phantom had undergone a massive transformation. It expanded into a behemoth that threatened to tear the space apart. The previously seamless cube developed deep, straight grooves across its surface. Click, clack. The massive cube split and reorganized before Sowu's eyes. It transformed into a standard cube composed of 26 smaller blocks. It was a three-order magic cube. Red, yellow, blue, green, orange, and white flashed wildly across the 6 faces of the cube, representing the various origin laws of the universe. What is this? Sowu's soul orb pulsed violently. Before Sowu could understand the nature of the object, the massive cube moved. The first turn echoed with a sharp crack. The top layer of the cube rotated 90 degrees to the right, with a terrifying pressure that rolled like the sea. The uniform colors were instantly shattered and scattered. At the exact moment the cube turned, a shrill scream erupted from Sowu's soul orb. Pain. The moment the cube made its first move, Sowu discovered in horror that his soul had been forcibly bound to the structure of the cube. Each small block corresponded to a fragment of his soul origin. The cube was being forcibly twisted and scrambled. This meant Sowu's soul was being grabbed by invisible, ruthless hands, twisted into a knot, and torn apart, while he was still conscious. This pain could not be compared to the agony of being sliced into 1,000 pieces in the physical world. Sowu finally understood why even supreme experts had perished in this place. Who could withstand a punishment that treated their soul like a cube to be twisted and scrambled at will? If his will showed the slightest hint of relaxation, his entire soul would collapse in the insane tearing and vanish into nothingness. Crack, crack. The cube did not give Sowu a chance to catch his breath. Accompanied by the continuous, terrifying sound of mechanical gears locking, the massive cube began to spin frantically. The top layer rotated left, the right layer flipped down, and the middle layer reversed. The colors were ground into a chaotic mess. Correspondingly, Sowu's soul orb was stretched, twisted, and torn apart ruthlessly again and again in the void. Waves of intense pain slammed against his psychological defenses. Although his soul orb was twisted out of shape, it stubbornly maintained a sliver of clarity. The intensity of the tearing was enough to instantly destroy an ordinary Destiny Realm expert, but he could still endure. Chapter 361. However, this treasure, which held the primal origin of the universe, did not intend to give the intruder attempting to touch the throne any room to breathe. A mechanical sound of misalignment exploded. Sowu realized with horror that the structure on the surface of the giant cube in front of him had begun to split even more intricately. In less than half a breath of time, the 3 tiers became 4. 64 blocks, 64 independently operating gears. This meant Sowu's soul origin was forcibly cut into 64 pieces, much smaller and finer than before, in an instant. Boom. The 4-tier cube turned. The outer layer went clockwise, the inner layer went counterclockwise, the top and bottom flipped, and the left and right sides shifted. Every gear engagement, every intersection of color within the 4-tier cube, felt like billions of blades cutting wildly into Sowu's divine sense. The terrifying damage to his soul inevitably triggered a chain reaction. Within Sowu's body, his soul sea, which had been as calm as an abyss, began to surge uncontrollably due to the severe damage to his divine sense. Golden soul power surged into mountainous waves, pounding frantically against the surface of the soul sea. Thunderclouds gathered in the sky. The entire spiritual world seemed to face an apocalyptic storm, teetering on the edge of collapse. In reality, on the 4th level, in front of the throne, Sowu's physical body showed clear signs of breaking down. His cold, stoic face had turned so pale that not a drop of blood remained. Beads of sweat as large as beans seeped out frantically from his forehead and cheeks. His hands, hanging by his sides, trembled beyond his control. If it were not for his supreme chaos body desperately clinging to the life force of this physical shell, any other Destiny Realm expert would have exploded and died the moment their divine sense was damaged to this extent, unable to withstand the backlash of the laws. But this was far from over. Click, clack. In the void of his consciousness, that deadly mechanical sound echoed once more. The blocks on the surface of the 4-tier cube began to split again. Level 5. The cube jumped to level 5. The force of the cutting on his divine sense skyrocketed geometrically the moment the 5th-tier cube took shape. In front of the throne, Sowu's physical body could no longer suppress the backlash rising from the depths of his soul. 2 shocking trails of blood tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. His soul had reached the absolute breaking point. Yet, at this critical moment, thump, 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 Sowu's powerful heart, like a war drum being beaten, erupted with a roar that shook heaven and earth. In the next moment, the destiny marks gathered in his heart, sensing the deadly trap facing their host, exploded. They no longer lurked quietly. Instead, they transformed into beams of divine light piercing the sky, flowing directly against the current, and rising into Sowu's turbulent soul sea. Boom. The first to soar into the sky was the Chaos Destiny, which suppressed the ages and originated all things. Following closely behind was a vast water destiny, deep as the ocean. A fire destiny burned the void. 2 lightning destinies, intertwined with purple gold, emitted the might of divine punishment. A profound space destiny shone through. 2 reincarnation destinies, alternating between life and death, remained mysterious and unfathomable. A time destiny peeled away the years. A blood and flesh destiny surged with vitality. A metal destiny revealed sharp edges. Finally, a dreamlike illusion destiny appeared. Aside from the 6 destiny marks Sowu had just seized in the 3rd level, and had not yet had time to absorb, the 11 destiny marks Sowu already possessed fully manifested above the high sky of his soul sea at this moment. Under the guidance of the Chaos Destiny, these destiny powers wove together above Sowu's soul sea, which had been on the verge of shattering. Light filled the void as the great paths resonated. In an instant, a wall of destiny formed above the firmament of the soul sea. This wall, colorful yet unified, carried the weight of chaos, circulated the vicissitudes of time, and surged with the immortality of reincarnation. The moment the wall of destiny took shape, it stood like an unshakable divine mountain, casting an absolute force of suppression over the entire soul sea. The soul sea, which had been raising towering waves a second ago, and threatening to burst Sowu's head open, instantly calmed down, as if hit by a freezing spell under the stability of this wall of destiny. The boiling soul sea became like a smooth golden mirror, without a single ripple. No matter how the 5-tier cube in the consciousness space outside spun crazily, or cut into his divine sense, as long as this wall of destiny blocked the top of the soul sea, those backlash forces could no longer shake Sowu's soul sea in the slightest. At this very moment, in the air beside Sowu's physical body, the cube will, which had been observing all of this silently, hung to the side. On its faceless countenance, it could not hide the shock deep within its heart. It reached level 5. The cube will muttered to itself, its voice trembling. As the accompanying spirit of this primal treasure, it had watched here for too long. The higher the tier of the cube, the more the power tearing the soul apart grew exponentially and terrifyingly. Once, a peerless genius reached the 4-tier cube, and collapsed on the spot, because they could not withstand the cutting of their divine sense, turning into an idiot, who could only drool. Even a grandmaster of the supreme realm had only lasted less than 3 breaths on the 5-tier cube. Ultimately, they failed, their soul was completely stirred into fragments, and their supreme body outside was blown into a cloud of blood mist on the spot. He actually managed to persist on the 5-tier cube. The cube will watched Sowu's body, and a wild, unprecedented storm surged in its heart. Chapter 362. The cube will stood in shock, watching the 5th order cube hold its ground. Then, a mechanical clack echoed deep within Sowu's crumbling consciousness. It was a sound like a death knell. It was the final chime. It gave Sowu no time to breathe or adapt. The massive 5th order cube erupted with blinding light. All the grids collapsed and split in the radiance. 125 blocks ground against each other with a shrill, piercing screech. They split into 216. The final stage had begun. The 6th order cube. If rotating the 5th order cube felt like being tossed into the core of an exploding supernova, the transformation from 5 to 6 was not a simple addition. The intensity of the soul tearing skyrocketed geometrically. 216 log years ground together with the raw, violent power of the middle primitive universe. They spiraled in a chaotic frenzy, upside down, left and right. Every gear mesh felt like billions of invisible blades slicing into Sowu's soul fragments. The pain was absolute. It was a torture that made thinking itself impossible. Inside the surging sea of his soul, the wall of destiny built from 11 supreme destinies faced an unprecedented shock. Gray chaotic energy burned. Water and fire wailed. Purple lightning dimmed. The laws of space and time groaned under the backlash. Hairline cracks appeared on the surface of the wall. Yet it held. It wavered, its light flared, but the wall of destiny remained a timeless reef in the river of time. Stubborn, unyielding, it did not retreat an inch. It protected the last shred of clarity beneath the soul sea. Time lost all meaning in this absolute void. 1 second stretched out like an eon. The cube squeezed Sowu's soul orb into mist, and the chaos destiny force compelled it to reform. Rip, reform, rip, reform. It was a death loop that threatened eternal madness. He gritted his teeth. He guarded the wall of destiny. He endured, second by second. Then, a sharp click sounded deep in his consciousness, like a mechanism locking into place. The massive, spinning 6th order cube vanished without warning. The tearing sensation ceased. The space disappeared. Sowu's soul sank, and he slammed back into his physical body. On the 4th level, on the plane where black and white intertwined, he stood before the throne. His pitch-black eyes, previously dull and hollow and streaming with red tears, suddenly regained a knife-sharp clarity. He lurched forward. His knees buckled, and he nearly collapsed onto the mirror like black ocean. He gripped his knees, his back arched in a curve. He gasped for air, his clothes soaked with cold sweat. A chill ran down his spine. He had come so close to death. If the rotation of the 6th order cube had lasted half a breath longer, the wall of destiny would have shattered. He would have been shredded into a mindless husk. Sowu wiped sweat from his face and cursed under his breath. The cube will, the ink-black figure standing nearby, floated forward. It had no facial features to show emotion, but its trembling form betrayed its excitement. It had succeeded. The will of the cube spoke with an ecstatic, raspy voice. It had survived the soul judgment of the 6th order cube. It had actually done it. 10,000 years. No, countless eons had passed. This primal treasure, ownerless since the birth of the middle primitive universe, finally had a master capable of bearing its weight. Before Sowu could catch his breath, the throne built of translucent data streams began to vibrate violently. The miniature phantom of the universe cube, the same object that had tormented him, now radiated a gentle, intimate golden light. It floated upward. It left the throne like a traveler finding home, drifting slowly toward Sowu. Sowu stood tall. He did not dodge. The cube phantom orbited his head 3 times, a solemn and ancient ceremony of recognition. Then, it transformed into a streak of light and branded itself into the center of his forehead. Inside his soul sea, waves surged. The cube phantom appeared in the center of the sea like a golden sun. The golden soul water, previously as calm as a mirror, responded to the highest law. It churned and boiled. Pillars of soul power rose like reversed waterfalls, pouring into the phantom. As the water poured in, the phantom acted like a sponge. It greedily absorbed Sowu's aura, his imprint, his origin. In this merging, Sowu closed his eyes. He felt his consciousness extending infinitely outward. A blood connection formed between him and the primal treasure. He saw the intricate, independent worlds inside the cube. He saw the dull, mindless mortal phantoms in the first layer. He saw the wreckage of the star field, where the star scale supreme had set his trap. He was truly becoming the master of this realm. Time slipped away. The soul water poured in faster, until the last drop of golden liquid vanished into the cube. The recognition was complete. The phantom exploded with brilliant golden light after absorbing his soul origin. The light chased the gloom from the soul sea. The entire sea shook with the resonance of laws. In the 4th level space, the cube will watch the complex, mysterious golden cube mark light up on Sowu's forehead. It knelt on one knee in reverence and bowed its head. Welcome home, master. With that whisper, a powerful, harmless repulsive force surged from within the cube's internal space. It was not an eviction. It was a self-protection mechanism after the treasure recognized its master. The internal space collapsed and reorganized, pushing Sowu's body out of the dimension to complete the final physical fusion. A repulsive force wrapped around his body and ejected him from the internal world of the universe cube. He arrived in the real universe, in the silent, dead star field that had been sealed for 10,000 years because of the cube's presence. Space rippled without warning. Suwu, his body radiating a heavy scent of blood, appeared in the vast sea of stars. Before he could clear his eyes, in the void a few 100,000 miles ahead, the massive universe cube, which had stretched across the center of the sector like a black planet, let out an ancient sound that shook the galaxy. Without any external attack, the universe cube disintegrated in the starry sky. It did not explode. Instead, it turned into billions of ink-black streaks of light. These streaks flowed like a returning swarm of bees or a rushing black river. They carried power capable of crushing supreme beings, yet they became docile the moment they neared Suwu. Billions of black streaks poured into his limbs, his bones, every pore and every cell. This was the true body of the primal treasure undergoing total dimensional fusion with his physical body. The light reflected on Suwu's stoic face. He opened his arms, allowing the massive power to wash over his body. He felt his foundation surging at an incredible speed. A long time passed. When the last black streak vanished into his body, Suwu slowly opened his eyes. A phantom cube orbited slowly in his black pupils. He looked down at his hands, then up to scan his surroundings. The massive cube, the object that had spanned eons and driven countless giants to madness, was gone. The forbidden star field, once oppressive and dangerous, felt empty. Only a few ordinary meteorites drifted in the silence. The vast star field had become hollow. Chapter 363. Suwu floated silently in the starry void. His eyes remained half-closed, savoring the lingering sensation of holding the origin of the entire universe within his palm. The space at his chest rippled with subtle intensity. A cube, barely the size of an adult fist and deep, ink-black in color, manifested from within his body without warning. The surface lacked seams, nor did it emit the blinding divine light from before. It resembled a piece of ordinary black ink jade. Staring at it too long induced the illusion of being pulled into a bottomless abyss. The cube will's voice, brimming with anticipation and pride, resonated in his mind. You can try it now. Communicate with your intent. Force the universe cube to transform into any shape you desire. This was the same voice as the haughty cube will that hosted the trial. Now it had abandoned its arrogance, conveying a sense of loyal service. Suwu opened his eyes, the corners of his mouth curling upward. He nodded. He shifted his intent. No complex hand seals were required, nor did he need to expend vast amounts of primordial energy. The void surrounding him boiled. Thick, ink-black streams of light, like an army following a royal decree, surged from his limbs. These streams did not scatter, but circled and wove together with precise rhythm within a 3-foot radius around him. In a fleeting moment, the circling streams contracted and solidified. A suit of ink-black armor, fitting perfectly and emitting a cold, metallic luster, wrapped around Suwu from head to toe. The armor lacked any heavy, cumbersome sensation. The lines flowed with perfection, resembling an extension of human muscle. The edges of each plate shimmered with sharp, primal energy capable of tearing through the void. The shoulders featured 2 menacing dark star designs, and the chest bore an obscure cube pattern. Suwu clenched his fist. The movement felt seamless. The armor weighed nothing, yet it provided an absolute sense of safety, as if not even a supreme expert's full-force strike could leave a white mark. Suwu tightened his gaze, fueling the killing intent in his heart. A sharp, clear blade hum sang out, tearing through the sea of stars. The ink-black light at his right wrist surged forward like a living creature. In a blink, the light extended and solidified, forming a battle blade over 1 meter in length within his hand. It possessed a primitive shape and exuded an aura of slaughter. The blade was extremely thin, presenting a dull, light-absorbing darkness. Suwu poured no power into the blade. He simply gripped the hilt and swung it casually toward the side of the void. A ink-black spatial rift, tens of thousands of yards long, appeared silently in the starfield like thin paper sliced by scissors. It refused to heal. That blade is sharp. Suwu studied the battle blade, a flash of admiration crossing his eyes. After testing the perfect shapeshifting, Suwu retracted his intent. The ink-black armor covering his body, and the blade that had sliced the void melted like ice under a scorching sun. It transformed into countless tiny points of light, merging back into his body. Suwu stood with his hands behind his back, turning to look at the fist-sized cube floating quietly beside him. Is that it? Suwu arched an eyebrow, his tone carrying a deliberate, probing pickiness. If a grand, primal treasure only possesses this single method of use as a cold weapon, it seems a bit beneath its status. The cube will, hidden inside the small cube, grew anxious upon hearing this critique. Of course not. Master, if you truly believe it is merely a cold weapon, you underestimate the treasure birthed by the middle primitive universe. The cube will's voice rose, filled with an eagerness to defend itself. Endless variety, turning into blades, spears, swords, halberds, armor, and shields, those are merely its most basic, rudimentary physical manifestations. The cube will explained rapidly in Suwu's mind. Master, it can open a cube space independent of the current world with a single thought. Once you draw an enemy inside, there is no heaven and earth primordial energy, no circulating laws, and even time stands still. It is perfect for absolute containment. Beyond that, it is an aggregate of cosmic mass. As its size changes, you can instantly enlarge it to crush enemies directly. That pressure, carrying the weight of the universe's origin, could crush a supreme expert's physical body into a bloody pulp on the spot. Suwu narrowed his eyes while listening to the cube will's endless explanation. A space for containment. Crushing gravity. This sounded interesting. Suwu stroked his chin, a thought flashing through his mind. Since it consists of cosmic origins and can change size and split at will, What if I combine it with my own destiny powers? Action follows thought. Come, try this. Two brilliant silver rays of light exploded from the depths of Sowu's eyes. The profound space destiny churned within his soul sea. Scatter. Sowu breathed the single word to the fist-sized cube beside him. With a soft pop, the complete little cube instantly disintegrated, transforming into millions of ink-black origin fragments, each finer than grains of sand. Sowu pulled his hands apart in front of his chest. The next moment, a terrifying scene unfolded in the starry sky. Numerous dense, ink-black dots of light, resembling stars, illuminated the vast void without warning around Sowu. He used his space destiny to force these universe cube fragments across the spatial distance, transmitting them with precision to every coordinate node in an instant. The starfield lit up, though not with starlight, but with black spots representing death. Solidify. Sowu held a cold expression, floating at the center of the formation, and clenched his hand in the void. A scalp-tingling metallic friction sound rang out, like billions of sharp swords being unsheathed at once. From each ink-black light dot floating in the starfield, several ink-black, sharp spikes over 1,000 yards long grew, and thrust outward at speeds exceeding light. Tens of millions of origin spikes crisscrossed, intertwined, and connected in space. In the blink of an eye, the previously empty, vast starfield lay cut off and locked by these interwoven spikes, transforming into an unimaginably massive spike cage. Every spike within this cage contained the indestructible, primal sharpness of the universe cube. Added to the blessing of the space destiny, the spikes even hid within the gaps of the void, making them impossible to defend against. Sowu could not help but gasp in his heart at the sight. It is too monstrous. If he had possessed this universe cube, while hunting the three Destiny Realm experts, or while dealing with the Star Scale Supreme, he would not have needed to chase them across thousands of miles, nor would he have had to withstand a starlight killing array. He would only need to snap his fingers. Every living thing in this starfield, whether a Destiny Realm old monster, or a supreme master hidden in the void, would be pierced into a honeycomb by these billions of origin spikes imbued with spatial laws. Sowu opened his palm, and the billions of terrifying spikes in the starfield collapsed instantly. The countless black dots crossed space, returning to his palm to condense into that fist-sized black cube. After this personal test, Sowu finally gained a preliminary understanding of this primal treasure. It truly requires combining one's own power to reach the limits of this treasure. Sowu mused inwardly. The universe cube acts like a top-tier, moldable carrier of universal origin. If the master is a wastrel, it is merely a hard brick for smashing people or blocking blades. But if the master masters the supreme destiny laws, it acts as a super amplifier. Combined with space destiny, it forms a killing cage that seals the starfield. What if he combined it with fire destiny? Could the cube fragments turn into billions of eternal origin sparks, burning a galaxy to ash? What about lightning destiny? Could he deploy a purple gold thunder sword array capable of blasting a supreme expert into dust? Most importantly, Sowu felt clearly during this brief test that the universe cube not only possessed exaggerated offensive amplification, but it also raised his defensive resistance to an inconceivable realm. As long as the cube protected his body, any attack directed at him would see its power weakened by over 70% by the cube's origin structure. Sowu gripped the small cube tightly, a satisfied smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 364. The Middle Primitive Universe, Beeling Starfield. The soul hall of the Shuryun sect housed 3,000 soul lamps. They flickered with dim light. The elder guarding the hall dozed on his cushion. A crisp crack of shattering glass cut through the silent hall. The elder jolted awake. He looked up, his aged face, mapped with wrinkles, drained of all blood. His legs went weak. He slumped to the floor with a heavy thud. At the highest point of the hall, the soul lamp representing the sect leader shattered. The wick extinguished. The soul dissolved. The sect leader had fallen. A mournful wail tore through the silence above the Shuryun sect. This scene played out across more than just the Shuryun sect. In less than half an hour, the same catastrophe struck dozens of superpowers in the Middle Universe, all led by experts in the Destiny Realm, including the Heavenly Thunder Starfield and the Polar Cold Sanctuary. Over 50 Destiny Realm experts had gone to fight for the Universe Cube. Almost all of them had perished. Inside a white expanse, a giant eye formed by countless chains of order stared at the forbidden starfield. The emotionless pupil rolled with uncontrollable shock and rage. How could this happen? The universe will groaned like a thunderclap from the heavens. The sound churned the sea of origin into massive waves. It had miscalculated. From the day Sowu broke through the cosmic barrier and arrived in this world, the universe will had targeted this intruder. To the universe will, Sowu functioned as a virus that did not belong to the cosmic system. When the universe cube opened, the universe will manipulated fate to push Sowu into the trial. Its calculations seemed perfect. The universe cube was born in this universe, but its core recognition program remained absolute, even beyond the interference of the heavenly Tao. The universe will intended to borrow a knife to kill, to have the outsider fall during the trial. It never dreamed the intruder would not only survive the trial, but succeed in mastering the primal treasure. The universe will panicked. Facing an opponent holding a primal treasure, and unbound by the causality of this universe, it could no longer kill him alone. 3 beams of golden light erupted from the eye of heaven. Ignoring the distance of the star sea, they descended into the 3 most hidden corners of the middle universe. The universe will frantically contacted the 3 most terrifying peak combat powers in this world. Space twisted violently within the white expanse. 2 massive figures, emitting a presence that made the stars dim, stepped into this restricted zone. On the left, a man wore armor red as blood. A monstrous sword energy that extinguished everything circled him. He was the Blood Prison Supreme. On the right, a figure resembled withered wood, but his eyes held depths that seemed to swallow light. He was the Withered Nether Supreme. Two great masters, who had dominated the star sea for ages, lowered their heads respectfully before the eye of heaven. The sea water parted. An old man, resembling an alien, walked out slowly. At the moment he appeared, the Blood Prison Supreme and the Withered Nether Supreme stiffened. Intense reverence filled their eyes. They even suppressed their breathing. This old man was not a supreme. He was the only supreme master in this middle universe, who had transcended the shackles of the supreme level. He was the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable. The Heavenly Tao summoned us. Why? The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable lifted his eyelids. Stars seemed to live and die in his cloudy eyes. The eye of heaven stared at the three, not wasting time. A thunderous will resonated. Star Scale is dead. What? Blood Prison and Withered Nether changed color. Star Scale Supreme is dead. He died in the universe cube, soul and spirit annihilated. The voice of the universe will sounded cold and heavy. Not only that, but the universe cube has changed owners. Who did this? The Blood Prison Supreme asked in a low voice. His killing intent boiled uncontrollably. Who in this universe could kill Star Scale and subdue a primal treasure? The eye of heaven did not answer. It projected an image into the void. In the image, a young human man floated in the starry sky. He was bare-chested. His muscles looked like a perfect sculpture. His eyes held a wild arrogance like a god or demon. A golden cube mark flashed on his forehead. This person is an intruder from another universe. The voice of the universe will resounded through the resonance of the heavenly Tao rules. It echoed in the depths of every mind and every star across the entire middle universe. I declare to the star sea in the name of the heavenly Tao. This child is not a creature of our universe. He is an invader from outside the domain. He killed our cosmic experts and stole our cosmic treasure. He deserves to be punished. His crimes warrant death. Outside, the barrier of the desolate starry sky at the edge of the middle universe tore open easily. Suwu stepped through the space channel. He had just appeared. The silent starry sky instantly turned a piercing scarlet. Countless purple heavenly punishment thunders brewed and roared across a sky millions of miles wide. The world itself used its most malicious form to reject his presence. Suwu's supreme-level divine sense caught the billions of cold killing intents locking onto him from all directions, crossing countless light years like a tsunami. Are they here? Suwu lifted his head. He looked at the rolling scarlet thunderclouds and sensed the terrifying auras gathering toward him. He felt no panic. A hint of excitement crossed his expression. He had captured the hunt command issued by the universe will of this universe. Chapter 365. Rumbling. The desolate, barren starry sky suddenly faced its cosmic doom. Scarlet thunderclouds of heavenly punishment roared above Suwu's head. In the vast, deep space surrounding him, space barriers tore open under immense, brutal force like fragile paper. Countless huge spatial rifts, like the yawning abysses of giant beasts, covered the starfield for several million miles. Warships lined the void like forests. Banners covered the sky. Ancient starships, several tens of thousands of feet long, and primeval star beasts radiating ancient auras poured out from the spatial rifts like a black steel torrent. They surrounded the starry sky where Suwu stood, blocking every path. Eyes darted across the scene. Killing intent soared into the heavens. The warrant issued by the universe will ignited the madness of this universe. Every powerhouse at the sovereign realm and above had gathered, launching an unprecedented, earth-shattering roundup. A sovereign. In the ordinary middle universe, a sovereign was a hegemon capable of easily establishing a sect in a top-tier starfield and receiving worship from billions of beings. Now, in this hunting ground locked by the will of heaven, these high and mighty sovereign experts were as numerous as hair on an ox. They did not even qualify to stand in the front row. They were mere common soldiers in this massive suppression army. Above those sovereigns stood more than 100 old monsters radiating the power of the Destiny realm. This represented more than 80% of the top combat power in the entire middle universe. The two towering figures standing at the front of the army commanded this terrifying force. On the left stood the Blood Prison Supreme. His blood-red hair danced wildly. Beneath his feet lay a vision of rolling mountains of corpses and seas of blood. The blood-colored long spear in his hand pointed straight at Suwu. On the right stood the Withered Nether Supreme. He resembled withered wood. Concentrated death energy circled his body. The surrounding light and time seemed swallowed by his nether energy. Two genuine supremes. More than 100 Destiny realm experts. Thousands upon thousands of sovereign. When this power converged, the overwhelming pressure crushed the laws of this starry sky until they collapsed and stagnated. Invader from beyond. The Blood Prison Supreme stepped forward. His voice boomed like a bell, shattering the nearby meteorites. He looked down at Suwu, who stood in the center of the encirclement. Anger burned in his eyes. You dare to defy the heavenly secret, steal our world's primal treasure, and slaughter the Star Scale Supreme along with dozens of peers. Today, the net of heaven and earth has fallen. You cannot escape. Hand over the universe cube. This master might ask the heavens for mercy, allowing you to keep a sliver of your soul for reincarnation. Otherwise, you will wish for death, but find no release. The Withered Nether Supreme remained silent, but his deep eyes locked onto the center of Suwu's forehead. Suwu, the target of the encirclement, raised his hand and picked at his ear with a lazy expression. Do you old fossils really have to talk so much before a fight? Suwu tilted his head. His gaze swept over the sea of sovereign and destiny realm experts. A wild, arrogant sneer pulled at the corners of his mouth. The universe will. It brought you bunch of weaklings. Does it look down on me that much? The entire field erupted in an uproar. Arrogant. A mere ant at the second level of the Destiny realm dares to spout such nonsense. Kill him. Use his blood to sacrifice to the Star Sea and seize the treasure. Being pointed at and insulted as weaklings by a young man at only the second level of the Destiny realm made these proud experts explode with rage. In their view, Suwu had used some despicable, underhanded method to kill the Star Scale Supreme, or perhaps he had simply gotten lucky during the trial. If they clashed head-on in reality, a single spit from each of them could drown the boy. Toast, but refusing to drink, you shall be forced to drink a forfeit. Attack together. Give him no chance. The Blood Prison Supreme tired of the chatter. He swung his blood spear forward. Rumble. At the Blood Prison Supreme's command, thousands of sovereign experts and more than 100 Destiny Realm masters struck simultaneously. The scene looked truly terrifying. Sword light, shadows, thunder, fire, ice, and frost. Countless magical techniques converged into a colorful, destructive torrent. The power of this torrent reached a level that even a true supreme would hesitate to face head-on, preferring to avoid the sharp edge. The torrent roared like a world-destroying dragon, instantly submerging the void where Suwu stood. Yet, in the very next second, when everyone expected Suwu to be reduced to dust, a point of deep, ink-black light sparked in the center of the violent torrent. Crash! The torrent of magical techniques, capable of destroying the world, collided with an invisible wall. It split directly down the middle, pouring wildly toward the starry sky on both sides. At the center where the torrent dissipated, Suwu stood silently. He had not moved a single step. A layer of ink-black light, flowing with a cold luster, already covered his body. The universe cube, in its primal treasure armor form. Every attack from the sovereign, and even the lethal strikes from the Destiny Realm masters, touched this ink-black armor only to vanish like mud entering the sea. Not a single spark flew. The defensive structure, representing the strongest origin of the universe, swallowed and disintegrated everything. This is impossible. The Destiny Realm old monsters, who had been sneering just a moment ago, looked as if their eyeballs were about to pop out. An attack from 10,000 people could not even break a single piece of his armor. A primal treasure, truly the absolute defense of a primal treasure. The Blood Prison Supreme and the Withered Nether Supreme exchanged looks. The greed in their eyes reached its peak. At this moment, Suwu slowly raised his right hand. Light surged at his wrist bracer. A primal battle blade, 1 fathom long and pitch black as ink, instantly solidified. Are you finished hitting me? 2 gray, ultimate flames of slaughter exploded in the depths of Suwu's eyes. Now it is my turn. Boom. The void beneath Suwu's feet exploded. The chaos destiny lying dormant in the depths of his heart erupted without reservation. Gray, chaotic energy poured into the ink-black primal armor through his meridians. The primal treasure and the chaotic power, these two top-tier, heaven-defying forces, achieved a perfect fusion within Suwu's body. At this moment, although Suwu's cultivation remained only at the second level of the Destiny realm, his true combat power, and the terrifying pressure he radiated, which ignored all rules, crossed the threshold of a supreme, and climbed wildly to the level of a heavenly venerable. Whoosh. Suwu shifted his form, transforming into a black aurora impossible to capture with divine sense. He crashed directly into the army of thousands of sovereign. The slaughter began. Suwu used no flashy techniques. He simply swung the ink-black primal battle blade in a simple, brutal motion. Slash. A black blade light, several tens of thousands of feet long, carried the destruction of chaos and the origin power of the cube. It sliced through the starry sky like a knife cutting through tofu. The hundreds of sovereign experts bearing the brunt of the attack had no time to even scream. They proved as fragile as waste paper before this blade. Their physical bodies shattered, their souls extinguished. With one strike, hundreds of sovereign turned into blood-colored fireworks exploding in space. Stop him. Form a formation. Several Destiny Realm old monsters roared, their eyes splitting with rage. They mobilized their destiny power, attempting to join forces to lock down Suwu's position. Just you. Suwu snapped his head around. His cold, emotionless black eyes locked onto those Destiny Realm masters. His left hand clenched. With the addition of the space destiny, the universe cube fragments split. Pop, 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 pop. Without warning, countless ink-black spikes thrust out from the spatial blind spots surrounding the Destiny Realm masters. Those high and mighty Destiny Realm old monsters had no time to sacrifice their defensive artifacts before the spikes pierced them into honeycombs. The destiny power inside their bodies shattered instantly under the chaotic energy. Blood spilled into space like a fountain. One blade wiped out 100 venerables. A wave of the hand-slaughtered destiny masters. Suwu acted like a peerless tyrannosaur charging into a flock of sheep, rampaging through the massive encirclement. The ink-black light armor allowed him to ignore all attacks, while his battle blade and the elusive cube spikes took dozens of lives with every swing. In only a few moments, the starry sky, which had radiated such imposing momentum, transformed into a veritable slaughterhouse. Severed limbs floated in space. The thick, lingering stench of blood defied even the void storms. The army that had just clamored to take Suwu's head now felt its courage crushed and broken. Countless sovereign experts retreated in a panicked frenzy, their livers and gallbladders trembling with fear. Damn it. Trash. All of you are trash. This child has completely lost control of his combat power by using the power of the treasure. We cannot let him continue this slaughter. The withered Nether Supreme's voice sounded raspy. He pressed his palms together. Attack together. Suppress him. The Blood Prison Supreme roared. The two Supreme Masters chose to join forces in a pincer attack. Rumble. The Blood Prison Supreme merged with his spear, transforming into a blood-colored rainbow piercing the star sea. The tip of the spear condensed the ultimate blood prison power capable of extinguishing all things. He thrust it at Sowu's back. The withered Nether Supreme transformed into a death cloud covering the sky and sun. Countless chains condensed from death energy sealed off all paths for Sowu to retreat from every direction. Facing the combined killing blow of two Supremes, Sowu did not dodge. Instead, his fighting intent burned to the extreme. Too weak. Sowu let out a long howl toward the heavens. He slashed his blade downward toward the direction of the two pressing Supremes. Crack. With the amplification from the Universe Cube, this strike transcended the limits of the Supreme Realm and touched the threshold of the Heavenly Venerable Realm. It felt like a strike from a higher dimension. The gray blade light carried a heavy weight that crushed the ages. Wherever it passed, time stagnated and laws collapsed. What? This pressure, a Heavenly Venerable. How could he possibly explode with power comparable to a Heavenly Venerable? The Blood Prison Supreme and the withered Nether Supreme felt their blood freeze the instant they sensed this power. It represented an absolute crushing suppression from a higher hierarchy to a lower one. They tried desperately to retract their moves and retreat, but it happened too late. Bang! The blade light slammed first into the withered Nether Supreme's death cloud. That nether energy, which killed anyone in the Destiny realm who touched it, evaporated like melting snow under the scorching sun when faced with the blade light mixed with chaos and cube origin power. The withered Nether Supreme let out a shrill scream. Half of his body shattered into a cloud of blood mist. The blade light continued, undiminished, smashing heavily against the blood-colored spear the Blood Prison Supreme claimed was indestructible. Clang! The ultimate ancient treasure that had accompanied the Blood Prison Supreme for an entire epoch let out a groan it could not bear. It snapped into two pieces on the spot. The blade edge continued downward, tearing through the Blood Prison Supreme's protective energy, leaving a terrifying, bone-deep blade mark on his chest. The Blood Prison Supreme spat out a large mouthful of vital blood. His massive body felt as though a meteorite had struck it. He flew backward, crashing through more than 10 warships before he managed to stop. One blade. Just one blade. Two peerless Supreme Masters, one crippled, one severely injured. Dead silence filled the field. The Sovereign and Destiny Realm Masters who had been fleeing in a frenzy all stopped in their tracks. Their bodies shook like chaff. They looked in despair at the black-robed young man in the starry sky, holding the black blade like a demon god descending upon the world. Sowu flicked his wrist, shaking the dirty blood from the battle blade. He raised his head. His cold, cruel eyes passed over the sky full of wreckage, and looked provocatively toward the depths of the star sea, at the massive eye of heaven hiding behind the thunderclouds. It was the universe will peeping at him. Are there any stronger ones? If not, it is your turn next. Chapter 366. Sowu held the dripping black battle blade, standing proudly amidst the starry sky filled with severed limbs. His voice was low, yet it carried an arrogance that transcended all laws. A thunderous roar shook the 9 heavens. The massive eye, woven from chains of order, trembled violently. It was furious. Since the birth of the middle primitive universe, the universe had never felt such extreme humiliation and rage. It had believed that gathering the elite of the entire universe, along with the 2 Supreme Masters, would be enough to wear down this otherworldly demon. The reality was different. Sowu had slashed 2 blades. He broke through the encirclement. He crippled both Supreme Masters in one blow. Protected by the Universe Cube and fueled by that unknown grey power, Sowu was invincible. Anomalous being, you are unforgivable. The grand, cold voice of the universe echoed in the depths of the cosmic origin. Then, the eye of heaven closed abruptly, only to fly open. Dazzling dark gold light flowed from its pupil. A hum echoed. Without warning, a dark gold beam of light, over 100,000 yards in diameter, shot from the eye of heaven. It ignored distance and dimension, locking Sowu inside. Trying to sneak attack me. Sowu's eyes flashed with malice. He swung his black battle blade upward, trying to shatter the beam. The blade sliced through nothingness. This was no attack. Crack. The void beneath Sowu's feet collapsed inch by inch. An irresistible pulling force dragged his body into an unknown spatial vortex. The beam of light dissipated. Sowu's figure vanished from the chaotic starry sky. The sensation of weightlessness lasted only a moment. His vision cleared. He realized he was no longer in the starry sky. The sky was a dark red, like dried blood. The earth was an endless expanse of scorched soil. Wild winds howled, kicking up yellow sand. At the edge of his vision, decayed ancient weapons, millions of yards high, stuck out of the ground in disarray. Bones of gods and demons, as massive as stars, lay half buried in the soil, radiating a suffocating, primordial aura. This place was the forbidden zone of the entire middle primitive universe. The ancient battlefield. It was a special realm that opened only during the dawn of the universe, when the heaven and the primordial chaos gods and demons slaughtered each other. Anomalous being, this is your burial ground. A voice devoid of emotion sounded in front of Sowu. Sand and soil swirled. 1,000 yards away, a human-shaped light figure, 100 yards tall, and woven from countless brilliant chains of law, slowly took form. The figure lacked facial features, yet the pressure it radiated matched the eye of heaven from above. Within the ancient battlefield, a realm detached from the rules of the living world, the universe will had finally condensed a physical avatar to strike personally. Meanwhile, a long, weary sigh sounded beside Siwu. Space rippled like water. An alien elder walked out slowly. He looked ordinary, yet as he stood there, the surrounding ancient aura could not touch his robes. He seemed to embody a law that transcended this world. He was the strongest in this middle universe. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable. Young man, your sharpness is too exposed, and your desire to kill is too heavy. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable looked at Siwu. His voice was gentle yet held an unquestionable resolve. Hand over the primal treasure. I will guarantee that if you let your soul dissipate here in the ancient battlefield, you will at least be spared the agony of the heaven's soul refining. Old thing, who do you think you are? Siwu spat out a mouthful of blood and pointed his battle blade toward the ground. Stubborn. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable shook his head. The next moment, his murky eyes shot out dazzling light. Within that thin, withered frame, a terrifying power, 100 to 1,000 times stronger than a supreme master, exploded. Boom. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable struck the air. A terrifying force slammed down toward Siwu. At the same time, the avatar of the universe will moved. It raised its hand, woven from chains, and grabbed forward. The dark red sky over the ancient battlefield split instantly. Millions of divine chains, wrapped in heavenly punishment lightning, surged toward Siwu from all directions like angry, poisonous dragons. The two beings standing at the absolute peak of the middle universe unleashed a world-destroying strike. I am not afraid of you. Wild chaos fire burned in Siwu's eyes. Cube. Transform. He shifted his intent, and his black armor surged with light. A massive, heavy, black origin shield, 1,000 yards high, materialized above his head. A deafening clang echoed. The attack from the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable, and the lightning chains struck the shield simultaneously. The terrifying rebound force crushed the ancient scorched earth beneath Siwu's feet, by tens of thousands of yards. The cube shield rippled violently, holding firm against the lethal blow. Get lost. Siwu roared. The shield disintegrated, turning into countless sharp, black spikes. Like a black rainstorm, they shot toward the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable, and the universe will. The spikes pierced the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable's body, and tore through the light of the universe will. Under normal circumstances, an injury containing the sharp origin of the universe would cause death, or severe injury. However, a hum resonated. Beneath the earth of the ancient battlefield, two flows of incredibly pure, unimaginably vast heaven and earth origin energy surged up. The bloody holes in the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable's body healed instantly. The light of the universe will rippled like water, recovering perfectly. Young man, give up. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable leaned on his cane, looking down at Siwu like a god. This ancient battlefield is the home field of the heaven, and it is also my dojo. Here, our origin energy is endless, and we are immortal. Your primal treasure is powerful, but how long can the energy inside your body sustain your extravagance? No matter how powerful a primal treasure is, it needs the host to provide energy. In this cage, the ancient battlefield, where one cannot draw energy from the outside, they intended to wear Siwu down until he died. You want to wear me down? Siwu did not feel despair. Instead, he laughed wildly toward the sky. His laughter was full of mockery. The universe will, and the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable could borrow energy from the ancient battlefield, but Siwu needed no outside help. Chaos is the beginning of all laws and the source of all energy. His supreme chaos body was a perpetual motion machine that produced energy endlessly. As long as the chaos destiny survived, his energy reserves were a bottomless pit, nearly infinite. Come on, let us see who falls first. Siwu's eyes turned crimson, and he looked like a madman. He stomped, shattering the ancient scorched earth. He transformed into black lightning. He stopped defending and, carrying the origin blade forged from the universe cube, charged directly at the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable and the universe will. Chapter 367. 5 years. This stalemate dragged on for 5 long years within the ancient battlefield shrouded by a dark red sky. No one could have imagined that this trap, meant by the universe will to crush the intruder, would drag on into a war of attrition. The earth of the ancient battlefield had long since collapsed under the weight of these 3 terrifying forces. The entire space lay riddled with holes, filled everywhere with black holes of law that refused to heal. Siwu smashed into the depths of the earth like a meteor, creating a terrifying pit that spanned tens of thousands of miles. Barely half a breath passed, and a sharp thud echoed. Siwu leaped from the crater once more. The universe cube armor coating his body remained as pristine as ever. His dark eyes burned like black holes, filled with a twisted, manic excitement. Come on, old dog, give me more. Siwu raised his blade, charging at the chains of heavenly punishment without hesitation. The avatar of the universe will, woven from chains of law, trembled violently. Standing on the other side, the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable wore a thin, withered face. It had once looked calm, as if indifferent to life and death, but now it crawled with undisguised horror and exhaustion. The last 5 years had been desperate. As the highest master of the middle universe, and the only heavenly venerable, they possessed the advantage of immortality and infinite energy on this home ground. They had relied on their foundation to drain the life from this boy at only the 2nd level of the destiny realm. Yet, after 5 years, they realized with despair that this madman, Siwu, possessed a foundation that was also a bottomless pit. It was even more exaggerated than their own. This boy is not right. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable gripped his staff with trembling hands. He stared at the charging Suwu, deep fear entering his voice for the first time. Did you notice? He is growing stronger. It was true. He was growing stronger, terrifyingly so. During the first year, Suwu had relied on the cube armor to survive the assault. By the third year, he used them like whetstones. He predicted trajectories. He fought back. Now, it had been 5 years. A mechanical chime rang inside Suwu's mind, audible only to him. System notice. Host descendant Suyu has successfully broken through to the 6th level of the demigod realm. Congratulations. Host Cultivation has advanced to the 6th level of the Destiny realm. A shockwave erupted as Suwu's aura climbed to the 6th level of the Destiny realm. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable's eyes widened. What is this aura? How is it possible? Another breakthrough. Old things, it is over. Suwu bowed his head. His voice sounded like a death sentence from the deepest hell. Suwu vanished. Before the avatar of the universe will could react, a large hand encased in black armor gripped the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable's neck. The Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable's face swelled to a bruised purple as he struggled to counter the hold. A sharp crack echoed. Suwu squeezed. Chaos energy flooded the body of the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable. The origin of the great path within his body crumbled in a microsecond. You said you were immortal in this ancient battlefield. Suwu leaned in close, his eyes mocking. He raised the black blade in his other hand. Then I shall sever this entire world along with you. Suwu swung the blade, pushing the chaos destiny to its limit. Grey blade light, like a grim reaper's scythe, swept past the neck of the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable. The blade edge cleanly severed not just the physical form, but the very connection between the man and the ancient battlefield. The head of the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable rolled slowly across the scorched earth. The murky eyes froze in an expression of unprecedented terror and lingering resentment. Impossible. With a soft thud, the headless torso and the severed head exploded into a cloud of grey powder. Under the weight of the chaotic destiny blade intent, the Heavenly Venerable soul, protected by the heavens for countless ages, vanished. It was erased entirely from the past, the present, and the future. Suwu turned slowly. His grey eyes burned with endless pressure and wild arrogance, locking onto the avatar of the universe will. Old dog. Now, it is your turn. The universe will trembled. This was the first time the ruthless will, which saw all things as grass and dogs, tasted absolute despair. It could not even leverage its full strength. What could it use to block him? Anomalous being. If you kill me, this universe will collapse. Trillions of living beings shall be buried with me. The light of the universe will flickered violently. The supreme dignity had vanished. The sounds produced by the friction of the order chains now carried a hint of hollow threats and uncontrollable panic. The avatar retreated. The way of heaven retreated before a young human man at the 6th level of the Destiny realm, using trillions of living beings to pressure me. Suwu stepped forward with the black blade. Each step turned the ancient earth into nothingness. Chapter 368. You are mistaken about one thing. Suwu's mouth curled into a cold sneer as he looked at the avatar. Do you think I would care about the life and death of other beings in this universe? Suwu did not wait for a response. The void under his feet shattered completely. He tore through the shackles of time and space in the ancient battlefield, appearing above the head of the universe, will avatar like an ancient beast crossing dimensions. Come down here. Suwu roared. He did not swing the battle blade. He opened his left hand, covered in the black armor, and clawed with his fingers. Liquid chaos energy dripped from his hand as he grabbed the head of the avatar. Presumptuous. The universe will felt the crisis of life and death, letting out a hysterical roar. The dark red sky over the ancient battlefield rolled back. Thousands of dark gold thunderbolts, thick as mountains and mixed with the destructive order of the universe, crashed down on Suwu from all directions. This was the last-ditch counterattack of the heavenly way. Every bolt of thunder could annihilate the soul of an ordinary supreme being. The destructive gold thunder hit Suwu. The armor on his body deflected 70% of the power instantly. The remaining 30% entered his body and was assimilated by the chaos destiny. He was immune to all laws. Crack. Suwu's left hand pierced the protective light and locked onto the shoulder of the avatar. You broken chain up there, it is time to break. Suwu tore at the two main order chains that constituted the avatar. He ripped them apart with unreasonable force. Ah! The universe will let out a shrill wail. The avatar was ruined, and its aura dropped like a leaking balloon. The thunderbolts that had been raging lost their source and dissipated into nothing. Run. If you slip through my hands today, I will take your name. Suwu stared at the broken light of the avatar with greed. If this remnant consciousness escaped to the sea of origin, he would face endless exclusion and schemes later. Since they had already fallen out, he decided to drain it dry. Suck it in. Suwu removed the armor from his hands and pressed them against the remnant of the universe will, pinning it to the void. The chaos destiny in his heart sensed the delicious nourishment. Hum, hum, hum. A terrifying suction power erupted with Suwu as the center. His body became a chaos black hole that could swallow light. The universe will shrieked. It realized with horror that its pure origin power was being pulled away by a force older and more domineering than itself. The dark gold origin flowed into Suwu like a mighty river. His meridians ached, but his supreme chaos body absorbed the energy with greed. His power climbed endlessly. His cultivation at the 6th level of the Destiny realm stabilized, and it began to push toward the 7th level. The change in his soul sea was even more shocking. The miniature image representing the core control of the universe cube flared with gold light brighter than the sun. This was an instinctive resonance. The universe cube was the companion treasure of this universe, and the carrier of its core physical permissions. The universe will was the soul and software of the world. In normal times, the heavenly way could not control the cube, and the cube could not interfere with the heavenly way. They were independent and balanced. But now, due to a mistake, Suwu had subdued the universe cube, and he was using the chaos destiny to drain the universe will. The two forces merged inside him. Rumble. Suwu's soul sea boiled. The dark gold origin was drawn in and fused into the core matrix of the cube. Outside, the avatar struggled weakly. Its self-awareness was erased by the chaos and the cube. No, I am the way of heaven. The avatar whispered one last time, before it collapsed into a final stream of pure origin energy, which Suwu drained completely. The ancient battlefield collapsed like broken glass, peeling away from the edges, because it lost the support of the universe will. Suwu stood still, eyes closed, hands hanging low. A massive change occurred within him. As the universe will died, the cube image melted into his soul. It became golden threads of underlying logic, intertwining perfectly with his soul, his 11 supreme destinies, and his chaos destiny. A strange, omniscient feeling covered his perception. The ancient battlefield collapsed, space swirled, and the starry sky changed. When Suwu opened his eyes, he was back in the real starfield. The world had changed. It was no longer just meteorites and vacuum. The vast universe had become a giant sandbox made of countless threads of law. Gold threads represented the metal law. Red threads represented the fire law. Subtle waves were the space law. And the tracks of flow were the time law. He could sense everything. A young star beast was breaking out of its shell on a barren planet millions of light years away. Two rogue cultivators were drawing swords over a spirit herb in a secret realm of the Beeling starfield. He could even sense the uncontrollable fear in the hearts of the experts hiding in the corners of various starfields. He did not need to perform calculations, and he did not need to release his divine sense. He was the eye and the will of the world. He had replaced the original universe will. So this is what it feels like to be God. Suwu raised his hand. Hum. The stars in the star sea for millions of miles stopped rotating. The light from the stars swayed toward him like a believer. The starry sky bowed, and all paths submitted. Suwu sneered, contemplating the eons. He exerted his will. Those mice who wanted to take my head for a reward. Suwu's voice resounded in every corner of the universe without using any energy. It was colder and more domineering than the previous universe will. Now, it is time for me to settle the account. Suwu snapped his fingers. In the blink of an eye, thousands of experts who had participated in the hunt and survived were wiped out by the rules of the universe wherever they were hiding. Bang, 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 bang. Their bodies and souls were obliterated instantly. Chapter 369. After eliminating the enemies, Suwu stepped forward. He embodied the supreme rule of this realm. With a single thought, his body pierced through the barriers of countless dimensions. The view opened up before him. The starry sky, the meteorites, and the light, all matter vanished. Suwu stood within a white space. In the center of that void stood a tree. It was a giant so vast that no measurement could capture its scale. Its roots plunged into the nothingness, and every root resembled a silver vein flowing with the laws of the galaxy. Its branches shone like crystal, and its canopy spread wide, where every leaf held up a miniature phantom of a galaxy. It was the physical pillar of the middle primitive universe, the anchor point for the origin of all laws. It was the world tree. Suwu stared at the giant tree. Its aura felt vast and ancient. A shock of wonder passed through him. The lofty universe will that had ruled before was merely a wisp of consciousness born from this tree. This was the true foundation of this universe. A ripple echoed. The gold mark representing the universe cube glowed on his brow. The submissive voice of the cube will resonated in his mind. Master, you have finally arrived here. This is the world tree that supports the entire middle universe. Suwu looked at the giant tree. His tone remained calm. What are you trying to say? The voice of the cube will carried an uncontrollable heat and reverence. Legend says that the world tree is an absolute taboo that cannot be touched, however. There is one exception. The cube will paused before continuing. That exception is the ancestor of all laws, the chaos destiny. Legend says that the chaos destiny possesses the absolute ability to encompass all things and assimilate all laws. It is the only power in this world that can pull the world tree up by its roots, absorb it completely, and make it its own. Suwu's pupils constricted upon hearing these words. Absorb the world tree. That would mean forcing the power of an entire universe into his own body. Suwu licked his dry lips. The flame of ambition ignited deep within his eyes. I will take this job. He did not hesitate. Suwu flicked his body and appeared directly beneath the vast world tree. He sat cross-legged and pressed his hands together to form an ancient seal. A boom echoed. Deep within his heart, he drove the chaos destiny to an unprecedented limit. Gray chaos energy erupted from Suwu's body like a breached ocean. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a sea of gray mist that blanketed the sky. It wrapped tightly around the vast roots of the world tree. The absorption began. It was not a comfortable feast. The moment it started, the world tree instinctively erupted with terrifying resistance. The 3,000 great paths transformed into tangible lightning and fire, dancing wildly across the trunk in an attempt to drive away the chaos energy. Suppress it for me. Suwu gritted his teeth as veins bulged on his forehead. He pushed his supreme chaos body to full power. His physical form acted like a bottomless black hole. He resisted the backlash of the world tree, and forcibly tore strands of pure world origin from the crystalline roots to swallow them whole. The scale was enormous. The energy contained within the world tree was billions of times greater than that of the previous heavenly avatar. This was no feat to be accomplished in a single day. It became a long, monotonous, and extremely dangerous war of attrition. The first year passed. Suwu remained wrapped in a grey cocoon of light. The surface roots of the world tree, thick as mountain ranges, were finally assimilated by the chaos energy, and turned into golden liquid that flowed toward Suwu's soul sea. By the third year, the speed of absorption began to accelerate. The main trunk of the world tree became transparent. His physical body underwent a high-dimensional transformation, while being washed by the massive amount of origin energy. Every one of his bones began to carve the deepest physical laws of the universe into its structure. The fifth year arrived. 5 years of relentless effort. 1,800 days and nights of frantic refining. In this silent white space, Suwu acted like a tireless monster, forcibly gnawing away the foundation of an entire universe. A sharp crack echoed. With the arrival of the final day of the 5th year, the very last crystal leaf on the vast canopy of the world tree, which carried the phantom of a galaxy, turned into a grain of dazzling light under the shroud of chaos energy. It vanished completely into Suwu's brow. A boom resonated. The world tree disappeared completely. The moment the world tree was fully absorbed by Suwu, the entire middle primitive universe lost its load-bearing wall. It let out a roar and a tremor as if the world were ending. Every star shook violently, and the spatial barriers rippled in large folds, as if they would collapse at any second. However, the signs of collapse lasted for only half a breath. Fixed. Within the white space, Suwu, who sat with his eyes closed, spoke the word. His voice carried the weight of the law. His physical body, which had absorbed the entire world tree and undergone 5 years of high-dimensional evolution, now replaced the tree to become the new, unbreakable anchor of this universe. The collapsing star sea instantly calmed. Chapter 370. Following this, an incredible cosmic spectacle unfolded. Because of the transfer of the world tree, all the residual, wandering origin power within this world that remained unclaimed by any living being, as well as those ownerless fate imprints drifting deep in the universe, responded. At this moment, they seemed to receive the absolute summons of their new master. They whistled through the air. In the outer starry sky, countless colorful streaks of law, breaking out from the depths of dried-up star fields and hidden ancient ruins, surged forth. They turned into a meteor shower covering the sky. Ignoring the distance of space, like 10,000 rivers returning to the sea, they rushed crazily toward the white space at the very core of the universe. Hundreds of incomplete fate imprints, a vast ocean of cosmic origin. They surged into the white space one after another, circling Suwu crazily, emitting deafening cheers of law. Suwu opened his eyes abruptly. That is good. Today, let us achieve a complete fusion. In his gray chaotic pupils, terrifying visions of billions of stars being born and dying now swirled. He raised his right hand slowly with his palm facing upward. Gather, he shouted sharply. The phantom of the universe cube lurking in his soul sea, the vast origin of the world tree he had just devoured, and the endless power of fate, and residual origin returning from the sky. Under the absolute dominance and crushing force of the chaos destiny, they were all forcibly extracted by Suwu. They compressed and collapsed crazily toward his right palm. The air crackled. The terrifying energy friction turned the void above Suwu's palm into an absolute vacuum black hole. All rules were crushed. All power was reshaped. Chaos acted as the furnace, and origin acted as the copper. The compression reached a critical point of singularity, incomprehensible to physical common sense. Dazzling, extreme divine light illuminated the entire white space instantly. The light faded slowly. Suwu closed his palm slowly, feeling the heavy, cold sensation in his palm, as if he were holding the weight of an entire universe. It was a seal. A square seal, deep dark gold throughout, with a miniature star map engraved on its base, and an ancient stamp formed by chaos energy coiled on the top. The Universe Authority Seal. It was no longer a pure will of heaven, nor a cold original treasure. It was the world tree, the universe cube, the 3,000 fates, and the origin of all things. Under Suwu's will, it had fused and sublimated into the only supreme token of power. Holding this seal meant becoming the absolute master of this universe. With a spoken word, laws were born. With a falling seal, star seas were destroyed. 5 years. Suwu looked down at the Universe Authority Seal in his hand, which radiated supreme pressure, and stood up slowly. In the next moment, he returned to the vast starry sky. But this time, the scene before him had undergone another earth-shaking change. His gaze easily pierced through the indestructible boundary wall of the middle primitive universe. Outside the boundary wall, it was no longer the violent, chaotic chaos storm he had seen when he first smuggled himself in, which was strong enough to tear a god-level powerhouse into shreds instantly. He saw a river, or rather, a vast, boundless cosmic sea flickering with billions of different colors. Every colorful water drop and bubble was an independent universe. There were top-level primitive universes as massive as suns, and lower universes as small as dust. They floated and operated in this boundless boundary sea, following some grand law of a higher dimension. At this moment, Suwu felt that the repulsive force of the boundary sea, which once viewed him as a thorn in its side, had completely vanished. So that is it. Suwu lowered his head and looked at the Universe Authority seal in his palm, which emitted a soft golden light. A flash of realization crossed his eyes. From the moment he mastered the Universe Authority seal, he had completely detached himself from the category of ordinary living beings, or boundary-crossing smugglers at the dimensional level. He now possessed official status. He was the supreme will of this middle universe, and a base node in the grand system of the cosmic sea. In other words, he was now a member of the management of the cosmic sea. This authority seal was his pass to travel through the cosmic sea. From now on, he could travel between different universes without any hindrance. Even those violent high-dimensional boundary sea storms would automatically clear a path for him when they sensed the administrator's aura on him. At the same time that Suwu had just realized his status as an administrator, a terrifying boom, like the world opening up, came from within his body. He was too full. In these 5 years, he had devoured the heavenly avatar, refined an entire world tree, and absorbed the ownerless origin of the entire middle universe. Although most of this power had been used to condense the universe authority seal, even the meager scraps fed back into his physical body were vast enough to burst any conventional martial artist. Before, in the ancient battlefield, due to environmental suppression and system feedback, he had skyrocketed to the 6th level of the destiny realm. But now, with all the origin fully digested and unified, Suwu ushered in the most exaggerated eruption of his cultivation career. Break. Suwu raised his head and let out a long whistle that shattered the Star River. The barriers of the 7th, 8th, and 9th levels of the destiny realm were like 3 layers of fragile window paper. The torrential chaos flow within his body pierced through them instantly. But this was far from stopping. A snap echoed. It felt as if some shackle that had imprisoned his life had been completely severed. Suwu's physical body, soul, and fate imprint ushered in an ultimate sublimation at this moment. He crossed that desperate gap that had trapped countless Star Sea geniuses. With one step, he entered the Supreme Realm. Boom. First level of the Supreme Realm. Second level of the Supreme Realm. The rise of cultivation level followed no logic. It was a forced increase after swallowing the foundation of an entire universe. Only when the chaos energy around Suwu became so thick that it was almost solid did that crazily surging aura finally stop slowly, at the peak of the 9th level of the Supreme Realm. Half-step heavenly venerable. He was only a sliver away from truly reaching the forbidden domain, where the Hunyuan heavenly venerable had once stood. But Suwu was not anxious. He knew that the pond of this middle universe was too small. To advance to a true heavenly venerable, or even a higher realm, he had to go to a top-level universe. Suwu clenched his fists, feeling the world-destroying power surging within his body like a churning river. A wild, cold sneer curled the corner of his mouth. Now, even without borrowing any vital energy, I could hang and beat 10-star scale supremes with my physical body alone. Chapter 371. Meanwhile, back in the original universe, Suyu sat cross-legged in a secret chamber, meditating. Suddenly, his entire body shuddered violently. What the hell is happening? Suyu shouted. He snapped his eyes open, his face contorted in disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. Before he could process the situation, a vast, pure, and high-dimensional god-level energy surged directly through the top of his skull. Boom, boom, boom. Suyu's cultivation level skyrocketed as if he had been launched by a rocket. He bypassed the 7th, 8th, and 9th levels of the demigod realm. He shattered the boundary of the great realm. He hit the first level of the god realm, then the 2nd level. He tore through the ranks like a lightning storm. His cultivation climbed until it forcibly slammed into the peak of the 9th level of the god realm. Only then did the power slowly recede, as if it still had more to give. In the silence of the chamber, Suyu sat frozen, paralyzed by the sheer terror of the power coursing through him. Who am I? He stammered. Where am I? Within the middle universe, Suwu faced the boundless cosmic sea beyond the boundary wall. He manipulated space, preparing to step out of this middle universe in a single stride. However, the moment his right foot crossed the threshold of the boundary wall, a heavy clang echoed. It sounded like a multi-ton anchor smashing into the deep sea, a terrifying resonance of chains exploding within the depths of his soul. An irresistible force, vast enough to drag an entire galaxy, pulled from the depths of the middle universe behind him. It latched onto his origin, yanking him back and forcing the half of his body that had already stepped out, back inside. Ugh. Suwu stumbled, retreating into the starry expanse. His brows knit together, and his expression darkened. What is going on? He muttered. He calmed his mind instantly, reaching out with his divine sense to commune with the universe authority seal deep within his body. A moment later, Suwu opened his eyes. His expression shifted, turning complex and then resentful. Damn it, he growled through gritted teeth. I was careless. He finally understood the source of the problem. He had devoured the heavenly way, absorbed the world tree, and condensed the universe authority seal. This made him the absolute supreme master of this universe. Yet, power always came with obligations and chains. He was the will of this universe now. If he left by force, this middle universe would lose its anchor, causing it to disintegrate and perish in a short time. Because he was deeply bound to the universe, he would suffer a terrifying backlash from his own origin. Since it is the will of the universe that is locked, why not just get someone else to be God? Suwu sneered. A solution flashed through his mind. He was never one to follow rules. If the rules prevented his departure, he would break the rules. Coalesce, he whispered. Essence, blood, and divine sense twisted and writhed in the void. In a matter of moments, a perfect clone, identical in appearance and aura to Suwu, took shape in the starry sky. It was a duplicate created through the thunder god body. Original, the clone said. The duplicate opened its eyes, locking onto Suwu with a defiant smirk identical to his own. I leave this place to you. Suwu wasted no time. He slammed the heavy universe authority seal from his palm directly into the center of the clone's brow. Boom. The middle universe trembled once more. Every chain of rule and the massive binding force sensed the transfer of the seal. Like sharks catching the scent of blood, they peeled away from Suwu's original body and wrapped themselves tightly around the clone instead. A classic swap. Suwu exhaled a long breath as the last connection transferred to the clone. The heavy burden of the universe vanished. He felt a long-lost sense of absolute, lawless freedom. Just stay here and hold the fort, Suwu said, patting the clone on the shoulder. If the universe faces an invasion, use the seal to mobilize the origin and crush them. The clone nodded, sat cross-legged in the void, and closed his eyes. He was the heavenly way of this world now, existing in tandem with the universe. Suwu turned his back on the void and gazed into the boundless cosmic sea. This time, there were no chains, no restraints, and no rejection from the boundary wall. He took a calm, measured stride forward, and his form vanished into the vibrant, colorful cosmic sea. Within the cosmic sea, billions of bubbles floated on the surface. Each bubble radiated a distinct light of law, housing a living, independent universe. Storms formed by the distortion of time and space raged between the bubbles like furious dragons. Even an ordinary Supreme Realm expert caught in such a storm would be torn into primal particles by the high-dimensional turbulence in an instant. Suwu walked through the chaos with casual ease. A hurricane filled with destruction rushed toward him. The moment it threatened to touch his body, the subtle aura of the cosmic sea administrator leaped from within him. The violent hurricane recoiled like a mouse meeting a cat. It dissipated instantly, splitting to the sides to clear a path of empty space for him. This official skin is actually quite useful, Suwu chuckled. However, he sensed something a moment later. That is the primal land. The aura of a bubble ahead of him matched the primal land. If that is the case, I will head there first. The primal land, the river of time. Water rushed loudly. As Suwu stepped into the river, the entire current seemed to rage against him, perhaps because he lacked the time destiny of this specific universe. The calm waters surged into colossal waves in an instant. Countless tsunami-like waves of cause and effect, formed from pure laws of time, roared like age-old beasts. They crashed toward Suwu, intent on drowning the foolhardy intruder who dared to desecrate the sanctity of time. Mere parlor tricks, Suwu muttered. He could not be bothered to dodge. Chaos, suppress them, he roared. The chaos destiny erupted. Gray, swirling chaos energy swept out from within him, forming an absolute field of chaos around his body. The waves of time, capable of aging a man by 100,000 years in an instant, were flattened the moment they struck the chaos field. The ancient and overbearing power assimilated them. Chaos was born before time and space. What was the river of time to him? Before the ancestor of all laws, it had to bow its head. Suwu stood with his hands behind his back. He stepped across the waves of time, enduring the erosion of millions of years, as if he were taking a leisurely stroll, moving upstream against the current. In the void on both banks, countless historical phantoms flashed backward. Wars between gods and demons, the destruction of stars, the rise and fall of civilizations. To him, these grand epics were nothing but passing smoke. His gaze remained locked on the upstream. Found it, he said. Deep in the countercurrent of the river of time, he reached a node where the years had been forcibly severed. A lone, broken, rocky island floated in the center of the rushing waters. On the island sat a giant, featureless shadow cross-legged, chains emitting a faint golden light pierced through its clavicle, limbs, and even the center of its brow. These chains were shackles forged from the laws of heaven and earth. They imprisoned the giant shadow forever at this point in the past. It endured the erosion of the river day and night, waiting for its origin to wither away. This giant shadow was the predecessor who had bestowed the time authority upon Suwu years ago. Suddenly, Suwu struck. Bang, 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 bang. The shackles on the giant shadow shattered one by one. The bindings fell away. The giant shadow sat stunned. What is happening? The shadow wondered, suspecting that being immersed in the river of time for so long had finally caused a hallucination before death. From beginning to end, Suwu had not even shown his face to repay this debt of karma. After leaving the river of time, Suwu discovered a connection between the primal land and his original universe, making it easy to locate the coordinates. It is time to go home, Suwu muttered to himself. He could now return to his original universe through the link between the primal land and his home. Chapter 372. The vast cosmic sea raged with chaotic storms. Suwu emerged slowly. His gaze drifted toward an unassuming, faint bubble in the cosmic sea. That bubble was his home universe, a lower-level primitive universe. Perhaps due to his new role as an administrator, Suwu possessed a unique awareness of these cosmic bubbles. He could sense their information and their precise locations. He stepped forward. A soft hum vibrated through the air. As an administrator, Suwu merged into the universe as naturally as a drop of water returning to the ocean. He passed through the boundary wall of his home universe without meeting any resistance. The moment he entered, the will of his home universe detected his presence. It immediately transmitted several messages into his soul. Suwu, you have returned. An unknown anomaly bypassed my awareness and infiltrated this universe. Your 2 grandchildren were attacked. I have done my best to preserve their lives. Resurrection would have been simple for the universe will, but without knowing Suwu's intentions, it could only hold them in a fragile, suspended state. Suwu stopped. He stood at the edge of the starry void, silent and motionless. In that single moment, every star within millions of miles began to flicker uncontrollably. Then, one by one, they extinguished and collapsed into nothingness. Suwoo possessed the power to resurrect the dead, yet he could not tolerate this violation. Whoever dared to target his descendants would pay with their life. Good. Very good. Whatever you are, I will slaughter you. A violent aura exploded without restraint. Suwoo transformed into a streak of light too fast for time itself to capture. He ignored galaxies and realms alike, racing straight toward the Su ancestral grounds. The Su ancestral grounds. Outside a grand palace, the Su family elite stood in rigid armor, kneeling on one knee. They were soldiers dispatched by the Kyushin Empire to guard the site. They did not dare to breathe loudly. On a bed in the center of the hall, 2 children, a boy and a girl, lay in silence. They were teenagers, the children of Suyu, and Suwoo's precious grandchildren. These children should have been full of life, yet they lay with eyes closed and faces deathly pale. Their breathing was dangerously weak. Even with the intervention of the universe will, their vital signs were fading rapidly. Strangest of all, their bodies bore no wounds. There were no signs of poison. Beside the bed, Suyu and Su Lele stared with eyes bloodshot, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly, the air in the hall distorted without warning. There was no shift in current, no sound of tearing space. A young man appeared abruptly. Upon seeing him, Lin Weiner grew agitated, though she knew the children's condition took precedence. Suwoo. Suyu turned sharply. His eyes reddened as he recognized his father. His voice choked with unconcealable emotion. Dad, you are finally home. They are fading fast. I know, Suwoo said. Suwoo reached out, pressing a heavy hand onto Suyu's shoulder. He nodded to the others. Step back. Leave this to me. Suyu drew a sharp breath, forcing down his inner panic as he stepped back. With his father home, the heavens would not fall. Suwoo approached the bed and lowered his head. He looked at his 2 grandchildren, who should have been laughing at his side, but now lay on the edge of death. The gray chaotic flames in his eyes flickered violently before he forced them into cold, icy control. He extended his hands, touching each child's forehead. Suwoo closed his eyes. His divine sense poured into the children like liquid mercury. This was not a physical assault, nor was it a curse on the soul. It bypassed the barriers of flesh and spirit, rooting itself deep within their subconscious minds. The subconscious space. It was a mental forbidden zone, deeper and more hidden than the soul itself. This realm served as the foundation for the most primal dreams and thoughts of every living being. Even a supreme realm expert, lacking understanding of mental dimensions, could not find the path into another's subconscious. If something malicious took hold in the deep subconscious, it was like a tumor planted in one's very concept of existence. No matter how healthy the body or soul, if the subconscious believed it was dying, the vital signs would irreversibly fade. A flash of cold light erupted in Suwoo's eyes. I will see what sort of thing dares to play tricks under my nose. Suwoo did not hesitate. The destiny of illusion emerged from his brow. Suwoo withdrew his soul entirely from his body, diving straight through the gaps in the children's brows into the dark, profound subconscious. When his consciousness touched solid ground, he arrived in a world of absurdity and twisted horror. The sky was a fragmented, blood-red hue. Clouds moved like creeping, rotting flesh. The earth was barren, devoid of grass or trees. Everywhere stood inverted thorns, twisted clocks, and black mist as thick as ink rising toward the sky. This was the subconscious of his grandchildren, yet it had been polluted by a filthy, evil force into a living hell. Ahead, 2 translucent, youthful light shadows hung suspended in the air, tightly bound by thick black vines. These were the subconscious sources of his grandchildren. The vines were draining their very concept of life. You are courting death. Killing intent flared in Suwoo's eyes. He gripped the empty air, and the black cube blade solidified in this mental world. As he moved to slash the vines, a heavy sound of footsteps, like hammers striking a heart, emerged from the dense black mist. The footsteps lacked panic. They held a calm confidence, like a cat toying with a mouse. Suwoo stopped. He turned slowly. His eyes, dark as an abyss, locked onto the swirling mist. Finally showing yourself. His voice echoed coldly in the twisted space. The mist tore open as if by invisible hands. A mysterious humanoid creature, 2 meters tall, stepped from the shadows. Its form was elongated and deformed. It lacked distinct features, its face a swirling mass of gray mist. It looked at Suwoo with no fear. Instead, its deformed body shivered with extreme excitement. It vanished in an instant, leaving behind only one sentence. You are finally home. Chapter 373. The figure was the same one who had dragged Suwoo out of the original universe. Suwoo glared at the entity. I do not care what you are. I will slaughter you sooner or later. Suwoo's heart roared like a war drum within the void of the spirit world. The chaos destiny erupted. The gray chaos energy transformed into an ancient beast with a gaping maw. It possessed a high-dimensional dominance capable of assimilating all things and crushing every rule. It lunged at the 2-meter-tall mysterious creature. What is this power? The creature had mocked Suwoo moments ago. Its swirling, vortex-like face contorted in vivid, twisted terror. It originated from the depths of the boundary sea. The projected mental seed held immense power. Normal supreme beings could not even detect it, let alone erase it. It had calculated that even if Suwoo discovered the anomaly, he could only engage in a bitter struggle within the mental cage. Both would eventually exhaust their spirits. The gray chaos energy touched the creature. Its high-dimensional mental barrier vanished like snow under a summer sun. It did not last half a millisecond. A screeching sound filled the void as the barrier melted into nothingness. No, this is impossible. How can you have this level of power in this timeline? The creature let out a piercing scream. It desperately tried to sever the mental connection to escape the subconscious space. You want to come and go as you please? Die. Suwoo clenched his hand. The chaos energy transformed into a gray giant hand that blotted out the sky. It squeezed the mysterious creature tightly. The creature exploded with a muffled sound. The absolute power of the chaos destiny crushed the creature and the surrounding black vines into primal soul dust. They vanished completely. Under Suwoo's surgical precision, the vicious power entangling the children's subconscious roots vanished instantly. Two youthful light shadows representing the grandchildren were gently wrapped in chaos energy. They returned to the safety of their mental core. They remained unharmed. Suwoo opened his eyes within the grand palace of the Su ancestral grounds. A layer of cold sweat beaded on his forehead. Crushing the monster in the subconscious had taken only a fleeting moment. Applying the chaos destiny to such a microscopic level in the spirit realm consumed immense mental energy. Dad, how are they? Suyu rushed forward. His voice trembled. The children on the jade bed had been breathing only the thinnest of threads. Now, their eyelashes twitched slightly. Suwoo and Suyu breathed a long sigh of relief. Suwoo felt no ease in his heart. A weight heavier than a mountain pressed upon him. What exactly was that thing? Suwoo turned. His gaze pierced the dome of the palace and looked toward the endless cosmic sea. He recalled the moment of confrontation in the subconscious. He had used the suppression of the chaos destiny to kill the opponent instantly. But he knew clearly that it had been an insignificant mental seed. One seed could bypass the universe's defenses. It nearly took the lives of his grandchildren. What about its true body? What level of strength did it possess? Was it a heavenly venerable? Or was it something that transcended the heavenly venerable and stood in the deep unknown of the boundary sea? Suwoo did not know. This ignorance triggered an unprecedented feeling of palpitation and irritation. He had thought that by controlling the middle universe and breaking through to the 9th level of the supreme realm, he had established a firm foothold in this star sea. Today's incident acted like a loud slap to his face. It is not enough. My strength is still too weak. Suwoo hated the feeling of being watched from the shadows. He hated the risk of losing his loved ones at any moment. He had to improve his strength as quickly as possible. He had to ensure that those around him faced no further threats. Suwoo made his decision. He walked to the bedside and patted Suyu's shoulder. Dad. Suyu raised his head. His face showed gratitude and lingering fear. He opened his mouth to thank him. Save the chatter. Suwoo interrupted him. He flipped his wrist. A jade bottle exuding extreme cold appeared in his palm out of thin air. The temperature in the hall plummeted. This bottle contained the primal origin liquid Suwoo had obtained from the middle universe. Suwoo produced several more storage rings. They were filled with the life savings of the Star Scale Supreme. They contained the treasures of the 10,000 Supremes and 100 Destiny experts he had slaughtered. Take these. Suwoo shoved the jade bottle and the rings into Suyu's hands. His tone remained serious. Dad, what is in this jade bottle? The aura is terrifying. Suyu felt the energy within the bottle. His heart shook. It is good stuff that will allow you to be reborn. Suwoo looked at Suyu. His eyes held undisguised expectation and severity. I can only stay for a short time. Your 9th level of the God realm is enough for this lower universe. But in the cosmic sea, you are nothing but a stronger ant. Refine all these resources. Break through to the authority realm, or even the supreme realm at the fastest speed possible. Only by becoming strong can you protect those you wish to protect. Suyu gripped the jade bottle and the rings. He did not know what his father meant by the cosmic sea, but he desperately wanted to become stronger. He looked at his father's cold and slightly weary face and nodded heavily. Dad, do not worry. Your son will never let today happen a second time. Chapter 374. The tasks were settled. Suwoo walked alone to the summit of the highest peak in the Su ancestral grounds. A howling mountain wind whipped his clothes, snapping them loudly in the air. Relying on Suyu is still too slow. Suwoo calculated his next path. Time was his scarcest resource. Who knew when that mysterious monster would strike again? If I want speed, I must use the most brutal method. Suwoo stroked his chin. A chilling madness flashed in his gray eyes. He remembered the white space in the middle universe. He had spent 5 years devouring an entire world tree. That feast had not only allowed him to condense the universe authority seal, but it had also triggered an explosive surge in his cultivation. The world tree contains the core laws and energy of an entire universe. Devouring one world tree allowed me to break through to the 9th level of the supreme realm. What if I devour 10, 100, or even the world trees of those top-level primitive universes? The thought took root and spread like a wildfire across the plains. He knew that to gain overwhelming strength in the shortest amount of time, he had to return to the cosmic sea. Frantically searching for and absorbing world trees was his only shortcut. He would turn those lofty universes into his personal pasture. The concept seemed perfect, but reality splashed cold water on Suwoo immediately. This plan has one fatal flaw. Suwoo frowned, his expression grim. Devouring a world tree is not as simple as eating an apple. Once he absorbed the tree, his physical body and karma would be forced to replace it, turning him into the new universe will for that world. If he just turned around and left, the universe would collapse instantly, and he would suffer a terrifying karmic backlash. How had he escaped in the middle universe? The answer was to leave behind a perfect clone. He created one capable of carrying the universe authority seal, letting it guard the gate so his original body could slip away. For every universe I control and devour, I must leave a clone behind to guard it. Suwoo rubbed his brow, feeling a deep sense of helplessness. His cultivation was strong, but his physical capacity remained limited. This presented the biggest dilemma. The number of available clones was severely insufficient. This mechanism of needing to consume one clone for every controlled universe acted like an invisible, heavy chain, restricting his grand plan to devour the cosmic sea. If I cannot solve the clone quantity problem, I can devour 1 or 2 more universes at most before my strength hits a dead end. A flash of thoughtful brilliance shone in Sowu's eyes. Since the cloning technique is not enough, he moved his mind. His massive divine sense flowed like liquid mercury into every storage ring he owned. These rings contained countless techniques, manuals, and fragments as vast as the sea. Sowu's divine sense scanned and filtered through the mountains of jade scrolls. He discarded the mediocre arts of killing and defense. His target was clear: clones. A moment later, a hum vibrated through the air. A broken bone scroll, buried at the bottom of a pile of junk from an unknown destiny expert, and covered in dust, caught Sowu's attention. The scroll radiated an ancient aura, carrying a hint of foreign energy. Sowu reached out, grabbed it, and pressed it against his brow. Destiny Clone Technique. 5 ancient, complex characters unfolded in Sowu's mind. As the obscure information from the bone scroll flowed into his soul sea, Sowu's furrowed brow began to smooth. It was replaced by a surge of irrepressible joy and realization. I searched everywhere to no avail, and now it falls into my lap. Sowu opened his eyes and laughed aloud. This advanced technique, called the Destiny Clone Technique, seemed like the perfect key for his current predicament. Sowu studied the mysteries carefully. To his surprise, the underlying logic of this cloning method shared striking similarities with the cloning technique he already mastered. However, the core soul drive was fundamentally different. Sowu's original cloning technique required splitting his physical constitution to inhabit a shell. The driving force of this Destiny Clone Technique, however, was the power of destiny. So that is how it works. Using a destiny imprint as the core, supplemented by a sliver of the original body's intent as the highest command, the resulting clone not only possesses independent thought and combat ability, but its strength depends entirely on the power of the implanted destiny. Sowu looked at his hands, his eyes flashing. For other martial artists, this Destiny Clone Technique was practically useless. Most experts in this universe could only grasp and control one destiny in their entire lives. Who would be willing to strip away their only source of destiny just to create a clone? That would be putting the cart before the horse, turning the original body into a cripple. Sowu was different. From the lower universe to the middle universe, how many destinies had he seized? Space, time, water, fire, lightning, reincarnation, illusion, metal, flesh, ice, and wood. Aside from the core chaos destiny, which he could never touch, he had more destinies than he could ever use. My reserves of destiny power are simply too vast. Sowu licked his lips. Because he had accumulated such massive amounts of destiny power, he could, if he wished, strip away those non-core destiny imprints. By combining them with this technique, he could create clone after clone of terrifying strength, all completely controlled by his own will. It was a perfect perpetual motion machine. He would go to the cosmic sea, devour the world tree of a new universe, and scavenge all the ownerless destiny imprints from that world. He would use the scavenged destiny to craft a clone on the spot, letting the clone fuse with the world tree and guard the universe in his place. His original body could then walk away, unobstructed, and continue to the next universe. Sowu stood up slowly. The last stumbling block on the path to the supreme throne of the cosmic sea was solved. Everything was ready. Sowu pocketed the bone scroll, took a step, and vanished from the highest peak of the ancestral grounds. Chapter 375. Before an independent courtyard in the Su family ancestral grounds, moonlight was like water, spilling over the bluestone slabs in the courtyard. The yard was quiet. Only a few spiritual plants rustled in the night wind. Through the window lattice, a dim, flickering candlelight was visible inside the room. Reaching this point, the killing intent on Sowu's body retracted and dissipated, like 100 rivers returning to the sea. His cold face, sharp as if carved by a knife, softened. He pushed open the door. Inside, a faint scent of sandalwood lingered. A beautiful woman in thin gauze with a graceful figure sat before the dressing table. Hearing the door open, she set down the jade comb and turned her head. Her face was ethereal and gentle to the bone. Her eyebrows were like paintings. In the depths of her eyes, she hid a deep affection and soft light that bloomed only for one person. Lin Wainer. You have returned, Lin Wainer said. She stood up and walked to Sowu. She did not ask how many people he had killed outside, nor did she ask about the dangers he had faced. She reached out naturally to smooth the non-existent wrinkles on his clothes. Yes, I have returned. Sowu pulled her into his arms. Feeling the warm, soft body, and the familiar scent of her hair, the heart that had been tense on the ancient battlefield for 5 years finally settled. Lin Wainer leaned against Sowu's solid chest. Her voice was light, but it carried a slight tremble of lingering fear. If you had not returned in time, I really dare not imagine. With me here, no one can move anyone from our Su family. Sowu stroked her long hair lightly. His tone was flat, yet it held a decisive, absolute dominance. Lin Wainer looked up. Her autumn water-like eyes watched Sowu quietly. Having accompanied him for many years, she understood this man too well. He was like a lonely wolf that never tired. Only on the eve of a distant journey would he reveal such deep tenderness. Are you leaving again? She asked softly. Yes. Sowu did not hide it. He nodded. There are some troubles that were not resolved cleanly. I am going to cut the weeds and remove the roots. He spoke lightly, as if going hunting in the back mountain. But Lin Wainer knew that behind these few words lay a shocking killing game that would stir up the blood and rain of the entire Star Sea. Good. Lin Wainer did not try to keep him, nor did she cry or make a scene. She simply stood on tiptoe, her cool red lips pressing lightly against the corner of Sowoo's mouth. Night deepened. Outside the house, the starlight was dim. Inside, spring filled the room. The red candles flickered, and the light gauze curtains slowly fell, covering the enchantment and lingering affection of the room. There was no heaven-shaking slaughter of the Star Sea, nor the heart-stopping calculations of the heavenly way. At this moment, Sowoo was no longer the supreme ruler, who held the universe authority seal, and decided life and death with a single thought. He was just a husband. His rough hands brushed over Lin Wainer's smooth, jade-like back, causing a shiver she could not control. Low gasps and suppressed moans intertwined with the night wind outside the window. This was a primal yet soul-soothing communion. Sowoo dissolved and released the exhaustion, resentment, and slight mania regarding the unknown high-dimensional boundary that he had accumulated in the ancient battlefield over the past 5 years in this extreme harbor of tenderness. Until the eastern sky turned pale, the lingering affection of the night slowly calmed in the warmth of their embrace. The first ray of morning sunlight spilled onto the bed through the lattice. Sowoo was already dressed. He stood by the bed, looking at Lin Wainer, who was still fast asleep with a hint of laziness and satisfaction in the corners of her eyes. A faint smile curled the corners of his mouth. He did not wake her. Some farewells did not need to be overly sentimental. Wait for me. Soon, no one in this cosmic sea will dare to make us worry or fear, Sowoo whispered in his heart. Then, his figure vanished from the spot. Somewhere in the starry sky of this universe, Sowoo stood with his hands behind his back. One of his feet was already half-stepped on the transparent, water-like cosmic boundary wall. As long as he pushed forward another half-inch, he would break free from this universe and step into the cosmic sea. However, at this moment, the mechanical prompt of the system sounded. Detected that the host's offspring, Sowoo, has perfectly refined the source universe liquid, breaking the shackles of the God realm. Successfully broke through to the authority realm, first stage. Authority realm, first stage? Good boy. Sowoo could not help but curse, and the smile on his face reached his ears. Sowoo had actually used the medicinal power of that drop of source universe liquid to kick open the death gate of the great realm, and step into the authority realm. A loud rumble echoed. Without giving Sowoo any time to prepare, a wave of energy that could not be described in words flooded into his limbs and bones. Ugh. Sowoo groaned and retracted the foot that had stepped out of the boundary wall. He clenched his fists, and the bones in his entire body burst with dense, popping sounds like frying beans. It was too full. This feedback of power was too violent and too pure. It should be known that Sowoo's cultivation, at this moment, was the absolute peak of the 9th level of the Supreme Realm, half a step to the heavenly venerable level. This realm was like a super reservoir that had stored water to the limit. If even one more drop of water dripped into it, the entire dam would face the risk of collapse. And now, what the system had poured into him was not a drop of water. It was an entire, vast ocean. Break for me. Sowoo raised his head and let out a long howl like an ancient god or demon. The shackles of the heavenly venerable realm cracked. Following a crisp breaking sound that only Sowoo could hear, the shackles shattered. Boom. A terrifying pressure that surpassed all conventional power erupted from Sowoo's body. The bottleneck of the 9th level of the Supreme Realm was completely crushed. Sowoo's aura completed an incredible sublimation and transition in this instant. Heavenly Venerable Realm, first stage. He had finally truly stepped into this supreme realm that the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable had reached. No, to be precise, his foundation at this moment was 100 times more terrifying than the Hunyuan Heavenly Venerable he had killed on the ancient battlefield. The next moment, in the starry sky within millions of miles of Sowoo, countless golden lotuses formed by the pure cosmic origin bloomed out of thin air. The light of the star river crowned him, and the laws of time and space hovered at his fingertips like docile pets. Is this the true power of a heavenly venerable? Sowoo felt the terrifying power in his body that seemed capable of punching through the universe with one blow, and his eyes flashed with intense light. If he had previously relied on the cube battle armor and the chaos destiny to forcibly raise his combat power to the heavenly venerable level, then he was now a genuine, supreme heavenly venerable who could sweep across everything without using any external force. However, the system's prompt continued to sound. Ding. Qualitative change completed. Congratulations to the host. Your chaos destiny has successfully upgraded and transformed into chaos will. Silence. Sowoo stood frozen on the spot. Even his breathing stopped for half a beat. Chaos destiny had upgraded. It had become chaos will? This. Sowoo subconsciously covered his chest. Before this, the chaos destiny had been lurking deep in his heart, presenting a gray, misty state. It was a power, a strange power that could devour and assimilate other laws. But destiny was just a destiny. No matter how domineering it was still framed within the concept of laws. Controlling destiny meant gaining the favor of some supreme rule. But now, with the fall of that prompt, Sowoo realized with horror that the gray chaos mist deep in his heart had disappeared. It had been replaced by an existence that could not be perceived by sight or hearing. It had become a thought, a concept deeply branded in the core of his soul. Will. What is will? Where my heart points, there is the law. Where my intention points, there is the Tao. He did not need to drive any gray chaos power, nor did he need to trigger any chaos energy. Suwu just generated a tiny thought in his mind. Delete. Silently, tens of thousands of miles away, a dense meteor belt, originally extremely stable, and composed of tens of millions of meteorites, disappeared. Space did not even produce a single ripple. In the same 1,000th of a second that Suwu generated this thought, those tens of millions of hard meteorites simply vanished into thin air. They were not crushed by external force, nor were they devoured by space. Instead, they were completely erased from the physical concept of existence. It was as if this meteor belt had never existed in the starry sky since the birth of the universe. Hiss. Even Suwu, who was used to seeing strong winds and waves and killing people like hemp, could not help but gasp after witnessing this scene. Then, an uncontrollable ecstasy surged from the bottom of his heart like a volcanic eruption. This is the true meaning of speaking the law. Suwu laughed out loud. He understood the difference between chaos destiny and chaos will. The previous chaos destiny was a knife in his hand. No matter how sharp the knife was, he still needed to swing it to chop down the enemy's law power. But now, the chaos will meant he was the rule that determined life and death. No matter how strong the enemy's law was, his will deemed the law non-existent, and the law had to cease to exist on the spot. Mental domain attack? As long as his will was immortal, any mental infiltration would not even have the qualification to approach his soul. It was as if Suwu used to be a high-level player with an invincible script in a game, unable to be killed and able to chop others into pulp. But now Suwu had jumped up to become the underlying programmer of this game. He did not even need to type code. As long as he thought about it in his mind, he could delete the enemy's data. Long afterward, Suwu still stood on the spot. Many more memories appeared in his mind. You were originally the supreme ruler of this vast cosmic sea, governing thousands of stars and endless destiny laws. You are the supreme god who transcends all existence. In the beginning, in order to completely break through and promote the mysterious chaos destiny to the supreme chaos will, you were attacked by the 2-meter-tall mysterious creature at the critical moment of your breakthrough, suffering heavy injuries. At the critical moment, you turned the plan around and resolutely converted all your divine power and absolute control over the cosmic sea into a mysterious system called Father Prospers through Son, and distributed it to the heavens and worlds. In fact, it was to use the power of the system to secretly lay out the layout, and help yourself finally, and completely control the supreme chaos will. Now, you have successfully taken the chaos will as your own and regained the supreme authority. Then, it is time to make a move and clean up the worms hiding in the cosmic sea. Flash. Without any hesitation or looking back, Suwu took a heavy step. He completely penetrated the boundary wall of this universe and transformed into a stream of light that could not be captured by any law, diving headfirst into the vast and boundless cosmic sea with extreme arrogance and domineering spirit. Chapter 376. In the cosmic sea, a chaos storm surged in the distance. It possessed enough power to grind a supreme realm expert into pulp in an instant. The storm moved like tens of thousands of furious, dragon-like rivers of stars. It unleashed a roar that shattered souls as it swept towards Suwu. Yet, the moment that violent storm came within a hair of touching him, it vanished. A humming sound echoed. The storm, which seemed ready to swallow everything, retreated to the sides like a frightened flock of sheep. Beneath Suwu's feet, it flatteringly paved a path that stretched out, smooth, and without a single ripple. This was only the beginning. As the resonance of the chaos will gradually expanded, Suwu lifted his head to scan his surroundings. He discovered, with a mix of shock and fervor, that this boundless, lofty cosmic sea had changed. The tens of thousands of universes, large and small, floated in the boundary sea like bubbles. Whether they were barren lower universes or middle and high universes filled with vitality, the light of the boundary walls wrapped around these universes dimmed at the exact same moment. It felt as if the entire royal court had collectively submitted to a true king ascending the throne. This was absolute submission. It was not a suppression of laws. It was a dimensionality strike on a conceptual level. Under the shroud of the chaos will, the origins of these universes trembled. They instinctively expressed their deepest reverence to this newly born creator. Suwu spread his arms. His deep, gray eyes reflected the scene of submission across the billions of stars. He felt the extreme control of speaking the law and having his heart be the will of heaven. His mouth curled upward, revealing a smile of utter wildness. Was this the feeling of a ruler? It was not the master of a single world. It was the master of this entire cosmic sea. The taste of invincibility intoxicated him. Suwu recalled the time in the white space of the middle universe. He had sat cross-legged for 5 whole years just to absorb that one world tree. He had endured the backlash of the heavenly laws and gnawed at the tree bit by bit like a laborer. To escape, he had even spent time searching everywhere for a clone technique. 5 years. Suwu scoffed, a madness flashing in his eyes that looked down upon the ages. Now, he did not want to wait even a single second. He stood quietly in the center of the cosmic sea. His gaze swept over the tens of ownerless universes that trembled before him. The chaos will moved according to his heart. Suwu produced a pure, domineering thought in his mind. He commanded them to hand over their trees. A rumble shook the void. In the same second that thought emerged, the entire cosmic sea witnessed a sight that made one's scalp tingle. A cracking sound echoed from within the dozen or so universe bubbles closest to Suwu, like the terrifying tear of a big bang. In the deepest parts of those universes, world trees emitted the light of different laws. They grew so vast they could support the starry rivers. They seemed to hear an irresistible summons. With more than 10 loud bangs, the boundary walls of those universes were violently shattered from the inside. A world tree burst out from one universe, followed by another, and then another. You have come at a good time. Suwoo watched the world trees whistling toward him from all directions. Gray light flared in his eyes. Those world trees instantly transformed into a torrent of pure, primal power. Like 100 rivers returning to the sea, they rushed into Suwoo's body. A muffled explosion erupted inside Suwoo. The barrier of the first stage of the heavenly venerable realm, which had just stabilized, crumbled instantly under the impact of this violent, primal power. Second stage of the heavenly venerable realm. But this was only an appetizer. Third stage, break. Fourth stage, break. Fifth, sixth, and seventh stages. The momentum within Suwoo surged forward like a crushing force. Because of the vast energy gathering, a massive vortex of spacetime collapse formed in the surrounding cosmic sea. Countless fragments of laws were born and perished in the vortex, as if witnessing the birth of a supreme god of the cosmic sea. When the last trace of the world tree's primal power was completely refined and absorbed, the wildly rising aura within Suwoo finally slowed. He reached the 9th stage peak of the heavenly venerable realm. Deep within the cosmic sea, a dead area remained shrouded in eerie black mist for years. There were no universe bubbles here. Even the storms of the cosmic sea dared not approach this place. It felt like a festering poison sore in the ocean of dimensions. Deep inside this sore, the 2-meter-tall deformed creature with a gray vortex for a face jerked awake from its slumber. How is this possible? Its voice sounded like rusty metal scraping, filled with unprecedented trembling and terror. In that exact moment, it had clearly sensed Suwoo's blood and energy. That guy's aura was too strong. The vortex-like face of the mysterious creature twisted in madness. It understood clearly that it could not wait any longer. If it did not solve the problem today, while he had just broken through, and his realm might still be unstable, it would live forever in the shadow of this god of slaughter, with no hope of ever turning the tables. It decided to kill him. It had to kill him immediately. The body of the mysterious creature instantly transformed into a mass of pitch-black dimensional slime. It forcibly corroded the spatial barrier of the cosmic sea. With reckless madness and venom, it unfolded a spatial jump towards Suwoo's direction. Somewhere in the cosmic sea, Suwoo had just finished refining the world trees. Suddenly, the void of the boundary sea tens of thousands of miles away rotted and dissolved like a canvas hit by strong acid. A pungent black fog, filled with despair and decadence, gushed out from the ulcerated opening. The fog cleared. The 2-meter-tall mysterious humanoid creature, its limbs covered in eerie blue runes, appeared in Suwoo's line of sight. Enemies meeting face to face. You really could not help yourself, running here to die. Suwoo watched the culprit who had once dragged him out of his original universe. The smile on his lips faded, and murder condensed in his dark eyes like Arctic ice. Suwoo. The mysterious creature emitted a hysterical roar. It did not waste any breath. It knew that facing this monster, any probing was just seeking death. The moment it moved, it unleashed a killer move that burned its own origin. The blue runes on its body exploded instantly, forming a net of absolute pollution that blotted out the sky. The surrounding cosmic sea groaned under this power. Yet, facing this killing blow that could turn a heavenly venerable into nothingness, Suwoo did not lift a single finger. He stood quietly in place, watching the net of pollution pressing down upon him. His eyes held a sense of condescending pity. You know nothing of true power. As Suwoo finished speaking, the chaos will deep within his heart emitted a weak thought. Disperse. With a word, the law followed. Or rather, his will superseded all laws. Before Suwoo, who acted like an unreasonable underlying programmer, the arrogant net of pollution that claimed to strip away concepts froze in midair, 100 yards above his head. Then, just like using an eraser to wipe pencil marks from paper, that terrifying power, along with the rolling black mist, was completely erased from the dimension of existence by Suwoo's chaos will within 1,000th of a second. Not even a trace of energy remained. This is impossible. What kind of authority do you hold? The mysterious creature saw this, and was scared out of its wits. It turned and tried to flee. Can you leave? Gray light flashed in Suwoo's eyes. Die. With another thought, the body of the 2-meter-tall mysterious creature stiffened. Its limbs, its vortex face, and its proud primal power collapsed instantly under the pressure of Suwoo's will. It was like a popped soap bubble. It did not even have time to shout a final word before it turned into fine, nothingness powder in the breeze of the boundary sea. Its body and soul vanished completely. Is that all? Suwoo watched the empty cosmic sea and sneered. It was not worth a single blow. Before the chaos will, this creature that relied on bizarre means was as fragile as paper. Yet, just as Suwoo thought he had avenged himself, the boundless cosmic sea suddenly began to resonate violently in an abnormal way. As the absolute ruler of the cosmic sea, Suwoo's soul sea instantly received feedback from the cosmic sea. It was a fragmented causal warning. He had not completely perished. He belonged to the timeline parasites. His true body had already shattered into hundreds of millions of pieces, parasitizing every space and time, every past and future of every parallel universe in this cosmic sea. The being just killed was merely an aggregate at the current time node. What? Suwoo's face darkened instantly. He closed his eyes and used the authority of the chaos will to trace the causal line of the monster he had just killed. He searched frantically into the depths of the cosmic sea. Indeed, the disgusting aura of the 2-meter-tall creature had not vanished. Instead, it was like an ineradicable plague. It had weak fluctuations 30,000 years ago, in the lower universe, 100,000 years into the future of the top-level primitive universe, and in the cracks of countless branch universes. As long as one of it survived in those billions of spaces and times, it could borrow a corpse to return to life on some future day. It could return like a hidden viper, and bare its fangs at Sowu's family once again. No wonder you dared to come and die. You thought I could not kill you completely. Sowu gritted his teeth, and the murderous intent in his eyes boiled over. You exist in every space and time. You exist in every universe. Then I will wipe out all the time in this cosmic sea for you. An ordinary heavenly venerable could only sigh in the face of such causal parasitism on the timeline. Even if one were strong, one could not return to billions of different universes and different time points to kill. But Sowu was different. He was the only ruler of this cosmic sea. He possessed the chaos will that could rewrite everything. To crush the bugs of all time at once, he had to act. Sowu lifted his head abruptly. His hands formed a primitive seal before his chest. Rumble. At Sowu's command, the entire cosmic sea boiled. Hundreds of millions of universe bubbles stopped operating in that moment. Sowu's divine sense reached infinite heights. He no longer used his physical eyes to look at this sea. In his perception, this cosmic sea became a glowing giant tree, vast beyond imagination. The independent river of time for each universe was a branch or a leaf on this tree. What Sowu sought was the main line river of time that ran through the entire cosmic sea and carried all branch lines of time. Come out. Sowu let out a roar that shook the ages. His hands clawed into the void before him, using all his chaos power, and tore it apart to the sides. The highest dimension of the cosmic sea was torn open by Sowu, an ultimate river, wide beyond calculation in light years, flowing with the images of the cosmic sea from birth to destruction, descended before Sowu with terrifying pressure that could collapse worlds. This was the main line river of time. Every parallel universe and every branch of space and time flowed out of this great river. I have found you. Sowu stepped out and landed in the center of the main river. The chaos energy around his body acted like countless chains, driving deep into the depths of the river water. In this moment, he used the chaos will to forcibly seize absolute control of the cosmic sea's main timeline. Standing at the source of the main timeline, Sowu looked down at the dense branch rivers of time that looked like capillaries below. He could clearly see the hundreds of millions of clones of the mysterious creature hiding in every corner of those branch lines, trembling. Now, it is time to close the net. Sowu closed his eyes. At the same time, through the chaos will, he forcibly drew all the ownerless and incomplete destiny powers in this cosmic sea to the space above his head. Billions of colorful streams of destiny gathered into a star sea of destiny power above Sowu, with those endless destiny powers as the frame, and Sowu's chaos will as the instruction, above the river of time. Countless Sowu clones wearing black robes, holding ink-black sabers, and exuding the pressure of the heavenly venerable realm coagulated in the void like a clone army. Their numbers were impossible to calculate. They obscured the light of time. They represented Sowu's murderous intent, promising not to stop until all were dead. The original body stood on the main river channel, and lifted his right hand slowly. The billions of destiny clones lifted their sabers in unison at the same time. Go. Sowu's voice echoed at the end of all space and time like a funeral bell rung by the Grim Reaper. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. He swung his right hand down. Boom. Following the order of the original body, the billions of destiny clones jumped down from the main timeline river like a black rain of extinction. They accurately followed those branch rivers and plunged into every parallel universe and every time node. This guy would be killed by Sowu sooner or later, so his deadline was just a matter of time. Sowu turned around. His gaze pierced through the endless cosmic sea and looked at the quiet and peaceful original universe. His family, his bloodline, finally ushered in true, absolute safety in this cruel star sea. Finally, it is over. Sowu breathed out a long sigh. He sat down cross-legged. The void beneath him automatically condensed into a supreme throne radiating ultimate majesty. 10,000 worlds bowed. Time and space submitted. In this moment, Sowu climbed back to the ultimate peak belonging to this cosmic sea. He became the supreme chaos god who ruled over everything and controlled the chaos will. Book complete. That's a wrap on high martial arts. I'll always be 4 realms higher than my son. Thanks for listening along with me. If you loved this, please check out the other series on my channel. See you there.